They were resting in peace until they were rudely interrupted.
What do you want to do, Scud? Turn over gravestones?
I just want to party.
Man, this place is a mess.
Now look who's awake. They're on the way.
Break.
They're back from the grave and ready to party.
I think things are getting out of hand.
The Return of the Living Dead. Rated R. Now playing at a theater near you.
In a world where podcasts reign supreme, two friends dare to ask, do you even movie? Hosted by filmmaker Henrique Couto and movie aficionado David D. Neuer. Spoiler alert.
What are you laughing about?
Just laughing because it reminds me of you. Have you seen Drive Thru with Horny the Clown?
The horror movie?
Yeah,
of course.
It starts with them lighting. I don't know if it's. I can't remember if it's a joint or if it's a cigarello. But that's the first thing you see is that, and that's what just made me think of it. Just kicking off the show like that.
It wasn't because you have a similar appearance to Morgan Spurlock?
No, it was not. I resent those comments. Rest in peace to a great man.
He was a fine man. I wouldn't call him great.
No, he wasn't great. His documentaries went a little downhill towards the end, I would say.
As opposed to when they were just out and out lies in the beginning?
I mean, Super Size Me had its day in the sun, and, he really did blow the lid off fast food, like Henry Rollins said that one time.
That's the dumbest interview I'd ever heard. All respect to Henry Rollins, but wow.
Man, you really blew the lid off fast food.
Blew the lid off of fast food, because apparently it's bad for you, says the guy with an 87-inch neck.
What's funny is I've watched that episode of Penn and Teller's Bullshit that on fast food numerous times, and it's funny because there's people out there that will demonize anything, obviously.
Sure.
But then they went and had the CEO, I think was it Hardee's or whatever that's in that episode?
Carl's Jr.
Yeah,
Hardee's.
Carl's Jr. Yeah, and then he comes on and basically just is the nicest guy possible and explains everything.
Well, the problem, because fast food is not healthy.
Yeah.
It definitely should be a moderation kind of, consumption. But the way that people who are opposed to it describe it is hilarious.
Yeah.
They will say things like, what they're doing is they're abusing your brain by giving you fat and salt and sugar, the most addictive things that your brain can take. How can you resist it? It's okay, but the way humans would describe that is you're giving people things that taste good.
Yeah.
So they'll eat them more.
Yeah.
Because fat, salt, sugar taste good. It's
fat,
not
salt, sugar sounds like a rapper. Yo, man, fat, salt, sugar here.
I mean, it sounds like a group of rappers.
It does,
but no, that's always been something that kind of drove me crazy. Because I should watch what I eat better. I think most people should, but I especially should.
Yeah.
I will never be one of those people.
I have a problem with currently in the cafeteria at work. They have cheeseburgers, chicken sandwiches, fries, salads, and stuff every day.
Yeah.
And I'm addicted to the chicken sandwiches right now because I get a side of pickles and a little thing of mayo, and then I just doctor the sandwich up that way.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm quite white. I am quite white.
My mother was in charge of the cafeteria at her company.
Oh, yeah.
And their company had a rule. They had, their campus was literally the size of a community college.
Yeah.
Very, very big. And for every X amount of employees, I think it was for every 2,000 employees that worked there or something like that, the cafeteria would add a station. So at the height, they had 6 stations, not including the salad bar.
Yeah.
And, one was kind of a general home cooking thing. One was a kind of a fusion Asian. They would all have different types of food you could get. And my mother was in charge of getting it to be more efficient because it was losing money. And they didn't want it to make a profit, but they didn't want the cafeteria to lose money.
Yeah.
Because the whole point of that company, especially at that time, was to get the health of everybody up.
Yeah.
And one thing that my mother struggled with was they had tons of healthy options. And generally speaking, they were always paying for the uneaten healthy food.
That makes sense, yeah.
So what they discovered actually worked really well, though, was the salad bar was very affordable. Like half the price of like a grocery store salad bar, maybe even a little less.
Grocery store salad bars don't exist anymore half the time.
Well, I mean, we still have them at the Kroger by me.
We lost ours.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hope you find it.
I wish. They had really good lobster bisque. Like that was my go-to.
Well, the problem with those salad bars, though, is that like even before everything got inflated like crazy over the last few years, when I was eating healthier and I was being vegan for a good while, I would go there to make a salad. And then when I went to check out, I'd be like, this is $12.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Like, I mean, and I get that like it's, the ingredients are good or whatever, but it's like $12. Like I can go to a restaurant. Like it should be a little cheaper because the convenience is what's getting me to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so at Mom's work, they had this salad bar that was obscenely cheap.
Yeah.
And especially when I was vegan, I'd go there 2 or 3 times a week and have lunch with my mom because I could just make this gargantuan salad.
I remember you telling me.
And then I just eat them down, you know? But my mom, she's retired now, but she always managed to care about whatever she was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to go to lunch with her multiple times a week because they would be trying a new food station recipe.
Yeah.
And she would sit me down and literally like I would have like a chicken sandwich and a hamburger and a taco. And my mom would be like, take a bite. And I'd take a bite.
How is it?
So what is it? What do you think?
Yeah.
And it was funny because, a lot of times there would be things like I'd be like, oh, the burger's surprisingly good. Not hot. Like I haven't been sitting here this long and it's not hot.
Not hot, yeah.
So my mom would like write it down and she'd go to the food prep people and be like, is there any way to keep them hot till they're on the plates?
Yeah.
Because the flavor's good. But same thing, like I get a chicken sandwich, like this sandwich is so dry, and she'd go to them and be like, it's pretty dry. And they'd be like, well, it's hard not to be that way. She'd be like, well, then let's just not do that chicken sandwich anymore. And she got the place to break even.
Hell yeah, man.
But I think my favorite part of the struggle she had was the big challenge wasn't getting people to eat healthy food there, was getting them to eat there and not go out eat or order
lunch.
in.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And part of the reason they were like, you should stay in and eat was it was cheaper.
Yeah.
It's a lot cheaper than going out to eat. And the like home cooking line was always insanely long because the food was very, very good there.
Yeah.
But the thing that caused everybody a bunch of trouble was one of the elements of getting the efficacy and everything to work really well was they got rid of money entirely.
Yeah. Okay.
So there was no debit cards, no cash, no nothing. You would scan your employee ID and it would be deducted from your next paycheck.
That's how we do it. Yep.
But people hated that, which was hilarious because my mother, when people had brought it up, they were like, I just don't like it being taken on my paycheck. She was like, do you understand
when you spend money?
Like, do you understand that that's how your money works?
Yeah.
And the funny thing is she was like, in fact, by buying your meal from a future paycheck, you aren't paying as much tax either. Like you're getting tax-free food with your money.
No, I love that we have that option.
But it was funny how long it took because for the longest time people were like, oh, they deduct it from your paycheck. And it's like, homie, everything you buy is deducted from your paycheck. So that was her big struggle. And then when they took her off of there, it didn't even last 4 months
I bet not.
of breaking even. They put it in the hands of the private contractors entirely. And they just, frankly, they didn't care.
Yeah.
I mean, why should they? Because they're just going to be paid no matter what.
Well, I mean, I've shown you some of the pictures of my choice meals at my place of work that I don't understand how they came up with the idea for it because the freaking mac and cheese and ham, you remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
If you can call it that.
Well, how many people, estimation, how many people work at your company?
I would have to say at least, I mean, it's got to be at least 3 to 5, I would think. 1,000.
1,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think that they'd have more options, but
they're doing a $20 million expansion right now too.
Well, and at the same time though, it's just a cafeteria.
Yeah.
And that was the big struggle at Mom's company was that they wanted the cafeteria to perform like really well.
Yeah.
They didn't want it to just be there as like a a little favor for people who are lazy.
Well, and we still have a bunch of people that are still working remotely too. So I mean, that's even cut down on it too, obviously. Plus, we are right by a bunch of places to go. Like there's a Wendy's, there's a Waffle House, like there's some like Hothead.
There's an immense amount of places by where my mom worked because she worked dead set in the middle of Kettering, Ohio. There's everything.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was just funny watching my mom, her wheels turn, because she was in charge of a bunch of stuff. She was in charge of the mailroom, which was like her A job. Yeah. But then her B job was the cafeteria and the what they called the body shop, which was their on-site exercise gym, which not only had all of the equipment, locker rooms, but it also had Pilates classes, yoga classes, spin classes, and you were allowed to exercise, I believe it was an hour a day on the clock.
That's awesome.
So, but that was a whole other ordeal because my mother hired this woman to run it, but my mother was their boss, and that poor woman, she would get bossed around, pushed around by these like.
I remember one story in particular.
Dudes. Yeah. My mom stood up to this one like 40-year-old ex-Marine, and my mom's standing there, 61-year-old like 140-pound lady, and she's just like, "I'm sorry, do you need me to take away your gym privileges?"
Yeah.
Well, the big problem initially was he wouldn't wear shoes in the gym.
He wouldn't wear shoes, and he was also dropping them, right?
Yeah, he was dropping weights.
Yeah, and screaming.
Grunting loudly. And so it was making a lot of the women who were the majority of the people using it were women, making them a little uncomfortable. And at one point he just said, like, they don't wear shoes in the yoga class. And she was like,
"Do you want
would it make you feel better if I made them wear shoes?"
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you something now that she's retired, although I haven't named the company, but now that she's retiring, it says, there was another thing. I don't believe it was related to that guy, but somebody was defecating in the showers.
Told me that. Yeah.
What was funny about that wasn't why would someone do that? No. It was why did they think they could get away with it?
Yeah.
The second time they did, they were like, "There he is."
Yeah.
Because they have cameras.
Yeah.
So, and he was so shocked when they caught him. He was just like, "Whoa." It was like, only between the time that we found the poo and how many men left the gym, there were 6 of you.
When you shit in the shower, you have to waffle stomp it down the drain. That's the way to do it. I thought everybody knew that by now.
I guess he'd missed that day at community college,
Waffle stomp is just always my favorite phrasing for that.
It could mean so many things. It really could. It makes its own gravy, if you will.
Gross.
It is disgusting. So, but all of that to say, David.
Yes.
One thing I've learned a lot in our friendship.
Oh, yes.
And one of those things is I feel like I've learned what it is to be married. Because aside from the lack of sex and the disappointments,
continue.
I was trying so hard to not break.
Not break. Yeah. Good job.
Doesn't even notice my new haircut.
It looks great.
As if it's a new haircut. I just got to trim a year and a half late.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah. You're supposed to get your hair trimmed like every 3 months. I was a year and 4 months out.
I'm deciding if it's going to go post Wasteland or if I'm going to keep it going for a little bit. I have my hat on right now so nobody can see it, but it's still growing.
Well, I would hope. Yeah. You're like, no, I willed the hair to stop.
Just stop.
Yeah,
I just stop.
Willed it to stop. Willed myself to male pattern baldness.
Can't remember. There's a Family Guy joke where he grows his beard back with like his strength. I can't remember who it is though, the character wise.
Sheer will. But no, that's Yeah. It's okay. Rachel didn't notice either. She was like, "Well, you were backlit." I was like, "I took 9 inches off my hair."
I just remember finishing up before I came here and like just getting it all trimmed up for my mustache and whatnot. And I just remember being like, "Wow, it looks so much better. Why didn't I do this before work?"
I don't know. Why didn't you?
I don't know.
You don't seem like you're big on morning grooming.
Nope. I am. It's not so much that I'm against or anything like that.
I didn't think you were like it was religious.
No. It's more opposition. So it's just like I live 5 minutes away from my workplace, so I get the max amount of sleep or snooze I can. And then get up and start my day.
You're talking to a guy whose first job was across the street from his apartment.
Yeah. I mean, I literally have like a 15-minute get out of bed, get everything ready, and get out the door. Like, as long as I'm out the door between like 7:40, 7:45, I'm going to be fine.
Because you start work at 8?
Yeah, start work at 8. Typically, we are allowed to clock in as early as 7:50.
Be weird if they were like a hard limit. It was like, you cannot work earlier than that. We won't allow it, sir.
But yeah, no, it's not that I'm against morning grooming. It's just showering before work is something I used to do at my last job, and it is just so much easier for me to take a shower before bed for the most part, because especially like tonight, I'm going to get home late and do it tonight and then go to bed.
See, when I think of showering before bed, it makes me think of high school. Because I stopped doing that once I became an adult. I'm not trying to pick on you.
You're fine.
But then I realized the benefit of showering in the morning, which is just all of it. I mean, just the experience is nice to start your day with.
Keep in mind too, I have a third shift roommate, so I have to fight the bathroom sometimes in the morning because he's just coming home from work. What?
Sounds like a you problem.
I mean, that is a me problem. That's why, again, I choose to shower at night and have minimal time in the bathroom in the morning.
Well, what time does he get off work?
6:30.
I mean, you could get a shower. I mean, you're a dude. What's it gonna take you 10 minutes?
Yeah, if that, 8 to 10 usually.
Yeah. 12 minutes if you remember a funny story.
What the hell? I was watching a movie recently, and she was like, Last Action Hero. I'm gonna go take I'll be out in an hour. I'm gonna go take a shower. I'll be done in an hour.
Yeah, I'll be done in an hour. Hey, at least she's honest.
I mean, there's that.
So I never noticed how short my showers are until I started living with Rachel. Yeah, she showers until the hot water's gone.
I usually will, put on music, and that's how I usually time my showers by, like, when I get to, like, if I know an album by heart, like, when I get to a certain song, I've been here in, like, 16 minutes, so I need to get out.
See, I time my showers by when I'm done washing myself.
I get that, yes, but I enjoy a shower, too.
I mean, I do, too, but, I mean, once the hair's done...
Yeah.
And I wash my face and maybe shave my neck.
Sometimes I get the really good hot water, and sometimes I get the mild tepid water. So it just depends on.
Do you share a water heater with your neighbors? Oh, that sucks.
I have in my last 2 apartments.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Most apartments, I'm pretty sure you have your own.
Yeah.
Most. So I've never had to share a water heater outside of my own.
Actually, no. That's actually, I'm full of shit. All 3 apartments have had a shared water heater, because I know for a fact that there was one time that like that they had their kids and everything had gone, and then I got in and I got like 2 minutes of hot water before it was lukewarm. Jeez. And then cold.
They should switch to a tankless. Then they wouldn't. I mean, that's what hotels. I'm pretty sure most hotels do now.
Yeah.
So that is one nice thing about hotels. It's basically limitless hot water.
Can't wait.
Oh, yeah. Well, I still think you would probably find yourself more bright-eyed and excitable if you showered in the morning.
We'll see.
So, I mean, that's just, I'm not a doctor.
It's mainly because, like, my alarm goes off anywhere between 7:20 and 7:30. So that gives me, like I said, like 10 minutes.
What, you have some kind of variable alarm? You don't know when it's going to go off?
No, I have 3.
My alarm goes off sometime between. Yeah. It's like, well... Huh?
I've got 3 alarms for the morning, because I've got one that goes off at 7, and seldom do I actually get up at 7. Although I do get up at 7 sometimes and shower. It is not often, but it does happen. What? I
mean, I can't pretend I have the best morning routine.
Yeah.
But I wake up and then I go into the other room and start working.
Yeah.
Oftentimes I have no morning ritual. It is literally.
Oh shit! When I was working at home, my lunch break would include the shower. Like, I would shower at noon and then
with a bottle of wine.
Yeah, no, not on the clock. No,
no. Well, now it's gotten even worse, because now I wear the Apple Watch, so I will sometimes accidentally start checking my messages before I've even stepped out of bed.
Jeez.
And yeah, that can definitely affect the way the day starts if there's some kind of urgent.
I can't remember. There was an article I read a while back that was basically saying that you can cut down your morning distractions by having your phone charging in like an entirely different room for most of your morning routine.
I mean, I have my phone charging 2 feet outside of reach.
Yeah.
And that's more than enough to not pick it up once while you're in bed.
No, I get it.
And that's just because that's where the table is.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, I know I have an enviable situation in that I would say over 85% of the year, I don't have an alarm set at all.
Yeah.
I go to sleep and I usually wake up. You could almost bet on it being about 6.5 hours.
I can see that.
Well, now that I wear the watch, I know.
Yeah.
Like, it's creepy. I'll look at it and be like, 6:40. 6 hours and 40 minutes again.
just recently like started like kind of trying to regulate my bedtime because I had it on my phone at 2:30 because like 2:30 was like the like latest I could stay up, like if I was still up, and like my phone was like, hey, you have work in like 5 hours, maybe we should go to bed.
Yeah, it's a little late.
So I've started basically making sure my ass is in bed between like 10 and 11. That way, like if I'm laying down and whatnot, it's gotten a lot easier. And I kind of forgot how wonderful it is to sleep through the night because I hadn't had that happen for a while.
Oh, ever since you ran over those kids.
Ever since I ran over those kids.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I'm impressed you have a sense of right and wrong, apparently. So no, that's the funny thing. So I have, since I was a child, I had what I would call sleep frustration.
Yeah.
I do not get into a bed until I am barely able to stay awake, because otherwise I will lay in bed very annoyed. I don't like being in bed.
It's 50-50 for me. Like if I actually like lay down, put my head on the pillow and like am looking at my TV, like laying down and whatnot, like I can find myself falling asleep during stuff. And then I know, okay, turn off the TV, put on a podcast, and then just like fall asleep. That's usually how I go with it.
Yeah. I when I lay down in bed, it's glasses off. It's time to sleep.
Yeah. I mean,
I also can't see at all without my
I
glasses.
fall asleep with my glasses on a lot.
You shouldn't do that.
I know.
It's bad for the glasses.
I used to sleep in my contacts. Not all the time.
I know,
but
because I used to tell you about like how
amoebas.
Yeah, you can get a goddamn amoeba in your eye or something.
Yeah, but you also can get amoeba swimming in a lake, which you won't do either.
I am very amoeba aware in my day-to-day choices.
As somebody who grew up swimming in lakes, I just do.
And as somebody who grew up with a severe, nearly blinding eye infection.
There is that. I mean, I did too, almost. I told you about that, how I almost lost my eye because I scratched my eye so bad that, like, if I hadn't gone to the eye doctor when I went, like, they were like, if you would have waited, like, another 24 hours, you could have lost your eye.
How old were you?
It was when Texas Chainsaw, the beginning, was still on, like, premium channels.
They may have also said that just to scare you because you were like messing with your eye. How'd you scratch it?
Trying to get a contact out.
Oh yeah. They were probably also trying to make sure you understand that you shouldn't mess with your eyes.
I mean, I had my eye covered for 24 hours with a bandage and like had like the ceiling drops and everything.
Adorable.
Yeah, I know. Shut up.
Well, no, my eye had to be
amputated.
Oh, damn near. My eyelid had to be taped down and I had to be bandaged for 5 days.
Yeah.
And that was at the end of a rigorous treatment process. So I'm not saying that, I mean, like, yours sounds awful. That's kind of my point, is I would not mess with your eyes.
There is a distinct pattern of me sleeping with my contacts in and then wondering why my eyes would be like itchy and like hurt, you know, the next several days.
I could see you just be like, oh, allergies. Like, well, you're just like pulling there might have shards of plastic out of your eyes.
I never ripped like an entire contact like in my eye. Like I put a torn contact in, which fucking sucks.
Sure.
But yeah, I've never actually like taken a contact out in pieces. Luckily, I've been able to get it out in one go.
I only once had a contact lens almost get into the back of my eye. But after my eye infection, wearing contacts was so incredibly uncomfortable for years. I didn't even try. And now they're not so bad. There's some really comfortable contact lenses now. So.
Well, my biggest issue is I was sleeping with literally fucking dailies in my eye. And those are the contacts that you're supposed to like, you know, take out at the end of the day.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, see, when I grew up, dailies were so expensive that I wore monthlies.
I didn't get dailies until my last 2 years of high school because I had the case and I had the liquid and everything for years when I got my contacts.
Yeah, when I went to the eye doctor, I need to go again. Last time I went to the eye doctor, every time I go, I get a contact lens prescription, and if they'll give me samples, I'll get some.
Yeah.
Because every now and then I need to go glasses free, like for a Halloween costume or for a movie or whatever. It's nice to have the option.
I get you.
But I remember the last time I went, I told her, like flat out, I was like, I'm going to be honest with you. I probably wear contacts 5 days a year.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, you should wear daily disposables.
Yeah.
And I was like, duh. Because before I would like find my contact lens case and be like, well, those have been in there for 5 months and pour them out, you know? And now I'm just like, oh no, I just have dailies and they're good for years.
I had to have it explained to me because originally, like, because the dailies were expensive. So when I was paying for them in college and everything, I went to my eye doctor and I was like, listen, like, I'm not wearing them as often. Like, should I just go back to regular pair? And she's like, no, that's the worst thing you could do. Because if you're not wearing them every day, why would you get a 2 week pair if you're only going to wear them like twice?
Well, there's also the consideration that the dailies aren't more expensive.
No.
If you burn through 30 in a year or
Exactly.
60 in a year.
Yeah.
They're expensive if you wear them every day because then you have to buy. I'm not a math surgeon, but 365 pairs.
I can usually make 180 of them last for about a year. Like, cause I like, I'm wearing my glasses right now, obviously.
Shocking.
Yeah, shut up. But, like I like my contacts, but there's specific times that I want to wear them. And there's times where my glasses will do perfectly fine.
Yeah. I don't like the experience.
I like
very
sunglasses. That's my only issue sometimes is that I will literally put you see me do it where I put my sunglasses over my glasses.
I mean, you can get prescription sunglasses.
Nope. Not going to look like a jerk.
Very cheaply.
Nope.
How does that make you look like a jerk? I'm confused.
I like having two glasses stacked on top of each other versus just one. I'm original. Thank you.
Does it help you blend in when you're at the old folks' home trying to scam people out of their money?
No, I'm not against prescription sunglasses. It's just I've always just either decided to wear my contacts that day or I literally will just put my sunglasses over my glasses for the laziness.
I mean, I just keep my prescription sunglasses in my car.
Yeah.
Because that's generally
Makes
always
sense.
when I'll need them.
Yeah.
But I mean, the big thing is, I mean, you don't buy glasses online or anything, do you? You buy them the old school way, don't you?
I buy them Zenni.
You
Oh,
you
yeah.
buy Zennies?
You turn me on to Zenni.
Oh, well, good.
Yeah.
Then
these are Zennies.
Then you should just get some. I mean, like, if you like those, just get a pair of sunglasses. Or you could drop the coin and get transitions. I've not dropped the coin. It's too expensive.
Never.
Why are you?
I don't
super
like
against it?
transitions. I do not like transitions.
You've had them?
No, I just don't like them on people, and I don't want them.
What do you mean you don't like them on people?
The fact, like, I just don't like the way. Like, I don't like when you walk outside and the glasses just turn. I don't know. They just.
Well, they slowly.
Yeah,
turn.
I'm not a fan of them. That's all I'll say. I'm not a fan of them. That's all I'll say.
I'm so confused by your resistance toward prescription sunglasses in general.
I have more resistance towards the transitions than I do actual just like regular prescription sunglasses.
Okay.
No,
I mean, my problem with them is that they're expensive.
I just don't like the transitions. I would prefer one pair of them to do what they do. Dude, I can't explain it. That is just
It just
how it
makes
is.
you uncomfortable. The idea that like if the sun's bright, it would stop blinding you.
It seems like creeps wear those glasses. There, I said it.
What?
Yes.
What does that mean? I have
Certain
no clue what you
people
mean.
that in my life that have had the transition glasses have been creeps, and that's all I'll say. That's all I've got.
That is so weird because it's not like they all look a certain way.
The ones that I'm thinking of do, which are like they look like regular glasses, and then they just turn dark when you go outside.
But any pair of glasses can be transition.
Yeah, but it's different for me personally in the view of like if these like turn black and whatnot. Like I don't know what it is about it. It's just I've never really been into them, and like I said, the people that I've seen get them, I'm not a big fan of.
I mean, Rachel wears transition lenses.
And Rachel's awesome, so she's an exception.
And you wouldn't know that they're transition because they don't have a
dude. We're
specific
talking about
look.
when I was in elementary school, kids had them. Okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That was like 95 years ago, David.
It was not 95 years ago, but thank you for that.
It was a very long
I'm
time
not saying
ago.
it wasn't.
Just wait till you hit 36 and then you realize that you've been 18 years not a kid and you're living longer. Yeah, you're living past the time you were a child.
Mm-hmm.
So this is all based on childhood trauma.
In a sense, like it's hard to pinpoint. Like it's probably me just being stubborn as I normally am. I'm a fucking stubborn person and have been for a long time.
A bit, yeah.
A bit, yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry I'm being nice to you.
Yeah, I know it's weird.
I was trying to be helpful. I mean, but it's cool. If you want to sound like my racist grandma's arguments about
like
Filipinos,
grandma.
it's
Calm
fine,
down.
I'm just, I just.
No, it's like it's something that I haven't ever thought about like recently because, like I said, I've just kind of always had that tie into it, like elementary school days. Like there's specifically two bullies that had them. So there you go.
That's so weird.
It is, dude. There's things I say on this mic that I'm not comfortable saying, to be honest, because it just kind of comes out like therapy.
Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with talking about your feelings.
It is when I don't know who's listening to this show right now who may or may not know me from those days.
Are you afraid? Like, are you friends with one of the bullies?
No. No.
Then what? I mean, like, if you didn't,
you just don't know who's listening. I'm saying, like, the person could be listening, and I mean, they may not know that I'm talking about them for that matter. But
I really doubt they.
I doubt they do too. But again, this is just me. Again, it's just like I haven't thought about this in a long time, and it's just kind of coming out now.
But I mean, like, even if let's say your greatest childhood bully is listening to the show right now. If they're aware that they bullied you, they're probably not proud of that.
I don't know about that. I know two of my bullies, like not personally, but I know about two of my bullies, and they have not really changed. And in fact, their kids act exactly like them now too.
So, oh gosh, okay. So I apologize. I understand. You're a yenta.
Might be, yeah.
You're a little knitting circle gossip.
There's people I kept on social media strictly to follow to see how they went. Yes, but that I don't do that anymore. Like that was like early days of social media when it was just like, oh, like this person sent me a friend request and we're not friends, but morbid curiosity, like what's going to happen to them. That shit, like that ship has sailed at this point. Like I don't keep anybody on to follow for that reason. But I know for a fact there's two bullies that in my lifetime have kids now, and their kids act exactly like they did when they were kids.
Because you like hang out where the kids are?
No, because one of my friends babysits for them, and the other one, the one is goes to a school that one of my friends' kids' school go to.
I think you need to learn to let go.
Yeah, I'm not saying I don't.
All I'm saying, this is not,
I don't like this intro. Like this intro went off the rails.
This is not me trying to make fun of you for harboring anger towards a bully.
I've said things. I've gone into a deeper hole now on this intro to the show that like I'm not comfortable with anymore.
All I'm saying is, as a person who was prolifically bullied,
yeah,
most of your bullies had really bad lives.
Cool.
No empathy at all.
No, I have empathy, dude. This is a really tough subject.
I understand.
I'm not gonna fuck around. Like it's a tough subject.
That's why it's interesting to me though, because it is an important.
Yeah, but I don't know if I really just want to open this up on the movie podcast.
But I mean, what are we? If movies inform who we are as people.
Yeah, but I do. Yes, I have empathy for it, but. This completely went off on a tirade I don't want to be on now.
I understand. All I'm saying is, could you forgive a bully?
Yes, and I have.
That's good. See, that's my point.
Yeah.
Is I'm not saying every single bully ever is going to have some redeeming quality, but I'm sure you would not be surprised to find out that many of the kids who were little shits either did it out of a lack of understanding, like you did the few occasions where you found yourself kind of on the bullying side as a kid. Yeah. Because you weren't a rotten to the core person. No. You just kind of ended up there for a minute.
Yeah.
And that's totally normal. So for me, being very low on the totem pole growing up as far as like being bullied, there were very few options that I could have even hoped to have bullied. But I think that a lot of those kids probably had a way worse home than you did.
Yeah, there's a couple for sure.
And I'm sure that at the end of the day, them not remembering or not owning bullying you would probably have more to do with their need to not hate themselves.
I hate that we've gotten this far in this.
I think this is of value though. This is because David, we are of a certain age.
Yeah, no, I know.
And this is the kind of stuff I spent a lot of time hiding from my childhood because it was very unpleasant.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people who it took me years to be comfortable with reminiscing about being a kid because I had to get over those memories.
It's difficult for me in regards to this shit's coming out for the first time out of my head right now.
Of course.
On this mic.
Yeah.
And I've been in therapy for, I've had at least 6 years, 7 years of in and out of counselors and whatnot. Sure. But it's just like that just came out. And I'm just like, I hear myself saying it and I'm just like not loving it. But at the same time, I get it. It is therapeutic to share.
Yeah.
But I just didn't expect it to go here.
I understand that. I'm not, the reason I'm pushing you a little bit is because I think that that's what you need sometimes.
Yeah. No.
And I mean, specifically you, because we've been friends for over a decade.
Yeah.
And these are the kinds of things that are hard to deal with.
Yeah.
One thing I do, I don't know if other people do, but that I do is I'm really bad although it ends up being helpful in some ways. I'll often, when I'm alone for a really long period of time, I'll prod at those things.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people do that to the level I do. And I end up upsetting myself, but not like in a, like, I'm going to cry all night. I mean, like upsetting myself because I'll be like, shit, I need to sit down and reassess
and sort that
myself.
out. Yeah.
Because why am I so mad?
Yeah.
And there were a bunch, I mean, coming to terms with being bullied, coming to terms with my abandonment issues have been things that I had to kind of find on my own, which I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
But holy crap, like
I made a couple friends like super sad over the weekend because we were just driving out a couple places, and it came out of my mouth, and it was just that thought that kind of left before I even thought about it. It was like, man, for a social butterfly, I'm really good at being a loner sometimes.
Yeah.
And that like kind of hurt hearing myself say that. So no, I mean, like there's little things that'll just kind of cook in my head.
Yeah.
And then come out eventually.
Well, you're a good friend.
I appreciate that.
No, you really are.
You are too.
You have your flaws. Everybody does.
Yeah.
And you like to head away from things. And I think that's probably your greatest flaw, only because it can make it hard to connect. Like we're doing right now. Talking about this.
It's because dear listener, you're going to get real intimate with me here for a second. It is
David,
because
put your pants back on.
It's because in the simplest terms, when you are a kid and any time that you are dealing with something and you kind of just push it down and then it just keeps building to the point where you eventually have it, not necessarily lash out. That's not the word I want to use, but that's the best thing I can come to terms with.
Sure.
And you're labeled as a drama queen or being dramatic by your family. You don't express much frustration after that point.
Well, and the tricky thing there is when you hold back until you boil, it actually makes you more dramatic.
Oh, it makes you way more dramatic.
Yeah,
But
yeah. It feeds itself. It's a cycle.
And that was the hardest thing. It was just like anytime I expressed myself to a certain point, it was just David's being dramatic, David's being a drama queen. Like this is why my sister and I strictly have a rule now that I am not to be called that, because it's a triggering experience for me.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I don't need to dive in deep on that.
Yeah.
But I can see it from being
my friend
and being around a little bit.
Yeah. And I love my sister. My sister's a great mother. I love my niece. I love that my sister has a happy life and is doing very well for herself. And I've come to terms, we've come to terms with a lot of our shit.
Yeah.
But that is one that really has stuck out for the fact of the issues that I hold internally inside me, but on top of like the mental gymnastics I do sometimes with my own self.
Sure. Well, that's
and
anxiety.
The stubbornness.
Yeah, and anxiety.
Oh, no, that's anxiety to a T. Yeah.
I think a lot of it comes from anxiety, a place of anxiety. And as a person who's very anxious, that's why I see it.
Yeah.
It's not because I sit there and go like, wow, I would never fuck up like this.
Yeah.
So you need to da-da-da. No, it's hard. It's hard out there. And it's hard, especially when these kinds of conversations can feel scary. And they can feel not only scary, but it's easy to resist them.
Yeah.
And that usually lets it become worse.
Well, it's because literally, I mean, as we're recording this right now, no one's hearing this as we're recording this right now, but I know that we are recording this for an episode.
I mean, just the CIA.
Yeah, the CIA and NSA.
Yeah.
It's weird for me to have a mic and feel more comfortable opening up on these things, even when the initial drop of it is scary.
Sure.
But the fact that you and I have been friends for so long, and the fact that like I know that I can share these things, this microphone here collecting all this is what was making me nervous. But at the same time, now it's just like at this point, it's out there as far as it goes.
And I totally understand that.
Yeah.
I think that you would be, and you probably already know this deep down, but like I think you'd be surprised how many people relate and they don't see you as some
vulnerability
bad thing.
Vulnerability is something that I've never really been afraid of in the sense of letting it out. It's more so the after effects of letting it out to certain people, like being vulnerable to somebody. I mean, anybody who's clicked on this episode wants to hear about the movie, obviously too. But like,
yeah, well, there are a million other movie podcasts they can go to if they don't like. I know.
No, what I'm more so saying is it's just like I appreciate that if anybody is hearing this right now and relates to this, obviously, please send us an email for one, but just at the same time, like, understand that, like, this is not something I do on a regular basis on the show.
No. But I've learned in being your friend that needling the stubbornness often is really good.
Yeah.
Not always, but often.
Well, it's like I literally had to do mental gymnastics on who was it that had shades like that. And and that's where it's just like, oh, no, I totally remember, because I just remember the faces immediately. So it's one thing to be able to face the problems. It's a whole nother thing to be able to face the problems and inspire somebody. And if that's or relate back to somebody to a point of that. And so, like, that's why it's like I get comfortable more as I think about it. But yeah, I mean, it's not something that I love talking about, obviously.
Well, but at the end of the day, we are talking to each other, and then people are listening.
Yeah.
You're not talking to anybody but me right now.
Exactly.
Really. I mean, people are listening, but they're not conversing.
They're not in the room with us right now.
No, I hope not. There's a curtain right there. But it's a tough thing to go through.
Yeah.
I appreciate you kind of letting that guard down a little bit, because it's needless is the big thing. Is you don't need to protect yourself because nobody's trying to hurt you.
Yeah.
And that's hard for a lot of people. I learned relatively young that being vulnerable almost always led to a good situation. And when I say young, I mean in my 20s.
Anxiety led me to believe that it could be weaponized against you, obviously.
And it can. But that's only if you hang on to toxic people.
Exactly.
Because toxic people will hear the thing you say that is really, really intense, and then turn it on you when they need to hurt you.
Yeah.
And the thing is, at the end of the day, the people that you love should not ever be like, shoot, I need to hurt David right now. How do I do it?
Yeah.
You know, they really shouldn't, unless they're a paid professional in full latex. So
fair.
So that's the truth of it.
Yeah.
You know, there was a line in Making Out where I basically say that it was Making Out where I say, like, handing somebody how you really feel is like handing them a knife.
Yeah.
And that's when they can just, that was just kind of how I used to feel. And looking back, it was absurd.
Yeah.
When I started making movies that mattered to me a little bit more intensely, like Depression, the movie, or Nothing Good Ever Happens, or all those, all I noticed was I was like, if I bared my soul, and especially the somewhat, or at least the parts I found ugly, people were enthralled and more interested.
Yeah.
I remember when Depression, the movie, showed, I sincerely, and that's one of my most beloved movies now, I sincerely thought people were going to walk out of the movie theater never wanting to speak to me again.
Dude, I remember that theater. The theater fucking lit up.
They were laughing the whole time. I thought they were going to find the observational humor stupid.
Yeah.
And I was shocked when everybody left.
I don't
happy.
think that theater had very many quiet moments, except for maybe Castera's story had serious tone to it.
It was a hefty one.
I mean, and so David Neely's, for that matter.
Yeah, but that one moved really fast.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is a massive digression, and I don't care.
It's fine. No,
it's you don't like it, you find some rocks to kick.
It's one thing to allow yourself to go to those places, but it's a whole nother thing to realize that you're recording that you're putting it on record. So I mean, like, that's just a barrier I had to cross with it. It was just like, we're doing this, fuck it.
But it gives you the opportunity to as well.
Yeah.
It gives you the opportunity to let out some demons.
Yeah.
And that's important, because if we're going to talk about movies, and we're mostly talking about movies that we've already seen that mean a lot to
affect us, yeah,
then we're going to have to be emotionally vulnerable to varying degrees, because if we're not, then then you become Chris Farley. That was cool.
Well, it's like this.
That was cool.
The movie in particular tonight, there is an element of it that has always, like, horrified me to my core.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the idea that you are dead, but you can't do anything about it, and you're alive right now. Like, and you're slowly coming to terms that you are a corpse, and slowly morphing into that. As
opposed to what made you always laugh, which was the idea of being dead and loving it.
And loving it. Mister.
Well, on that note, why not bury the lead a bit on a highly anticipated episode?
I wish I had a shot of whiskey right now.
Well, that's a whole other problem we can get into next week.
There we go.
Our time is up.
Yes.
No, I'll send you a bill. So
I bought your dinner, goddammit.
Counts. You can write that off your taxes as a medical expense now. So taxes. So tonight we are talking about, as part of our April showers,
yes.
our rain theme. We're talking about 1984.
85.
1985's
Yes.
Return of the Living Dead.
And we want to party.
Oh, and it's party time.
It's party time.
So it's a film that I feel like everybody's talked about to some extent.
Yeah.
It's highly beloved.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. I would not call this film overrated in any way.
No.
And I have minor criticisms of it, and it's not overrated.
Well, and it wasn't one that I necessarily didn't even think of, because I'm pretty sure it was on the list I sent you originally for April showers.
I think
maybe
so.
I can't remember, but it was one that like you just said it perfectly. It was just like, do we have anything to say about it? But I mean, at the same time, there's a lot to say about this movie still.
And at the same time, here's the tricky thing of life. It's like the trailer dilemma.
Yeah.
You know how people say, like, I hate that trailer, gave away everything. Why did they give away all the best of the trailer? They did focus groups.
James McAvoy's a bad guy?
Well, that was a really dumb argument, but they've done studies, and when people see a trailer for a movie,
yeah,
they are excited to see the stuff from the trailer in the movie. They're not mad that they already know what happens.
No,
they're not. So, and that's a very important point to keep in mind, is that people, they want something new, but they also want something that they're familiar with. And when it comes to talking about a movie everybody else has talked about, that's where there's kind of this conflict, because inside of you, there's one part saying like, well, everybody else has done it, so I don't want to do it. But then there's the other part that's like, yeah, but somebody still wants to hear it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm at with why I wanted to do that one, is like, there's plenty of people who want to hear people talk about Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
And on top of that, maybe, just maybe, some of them will listen to you grow.
Well, it's like
watching Blossom.
There we go. Like at the end of this month, we have one of my all-time favorite movies. And there's the only hints I'm going to give you. And it's like, that movie's been talked about incessantly. But I'm so happy and ready to dive into it again.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's the other thing that's important to keep in mind about movies and why we love them, is because we can revisit them.
Yeah.
And in a way, by revisiting them, you're revisiting that point in time.
Yeah.
Not only when the movie was made, but when you yourself watched it.
Exactly.
And there's nothing, anybody who wants to say, whatever they could possibly say about this episode or us talking about personal life stuff, if you love movies, then you are without a doubt an absolute empathy person.
Yeah.
Because I think it was actually Ebert who said that film is an empathy machine.
Yeah.
And I connected with when he said that so much, because all we're doing is watching human beings and pretend, and we know they're pretending, and then we want to believe them and empathize with them.
Well, and I will give a movie, it may not be like a 5-star film, but I will give a movie major props if I shed a tear for it. Like that is you've done something to me that has made these fictional characters that did not exist until I sat down in your theater or sat down in the seat at home and watched this movie and care about these people.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a big, big thing for me. If I cry during a movie, you've done your job, even if the movie isn't, my favorite.
Or you can be re-showing me American Movie and me going, actually, I hate this guy.
Yeah, there was that. Or us watching Phenomena and being like, man, Argento's just really loud in this music at the end.
Didn't age well for me.
No.
But I appreciate what people appreciate. So anyway, so we got Return of the Living Dead here.
Yes, we do.
And I have a lot to say about the movie. So, Dave,
take it away.
Start us up.
All right. Return of the Living Dead, 1985, 1 hour and 31 minutes, rated R for horror, violence, and gore, language, and nudity. IMDb synopsis says, when two bumbling employees at a medical supply warehouse accidentally release a deadly gas into the air, vapors cause the dead to rise again as zombies.
Oh, but do they get the vapors?
They don't get the vapors.
Oh.
But they could go get the papers, get the papers.
Get the papers, get the papers.
My synopsis, when a deadly gas is released into the air, a small Kentucky town becomes overrun by zombies rising from the ground. About the same.
Yeah. I mean, what can you
say?
Well, Return of the Living Dead, the plot and the details are totally different. It's just zombies rising from the dead, but then the details are what make Return of the Living Dead Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah. I mean, because in all honesty, as far as like the direct action goes of this film, not a lot happens, I would say.
No, people hang out, they say some funny stuff.
Yeah.
Then they're being hunted by brain-eating zombies.
Yeah.
And then they're hunted more. They escape, and then they're hunted more.
Yeah.
That's kind of the beauty of this movie.
Yeah.
is that it took a really interesting direction.
It did.
And not just in terms of the characterizations and the dialogue, but every direction. I mean, the zombies are very different from any zombies we had seen up until now. They're not George Romero zombies. They're super fast. They're super smart. They can't die basically ever.
Well, I mean, and we'll get into it as we get into the trivia a little bit more, but like this is the first like inclination of zombies eating brains and saying that they want to eat brains.
So I had a girlfriend years ago and we were hanging out and I was in a mood and I was like, I just want to watch something stupid and relax. So I put on Return of the Living Dead 4. Necropolis.
Yes.
And she had never seen that.
Yeah.
So, and when the first zombie jumps out, it goes, brains. And she starts laughing and she's like, oh my God, it literally said brains. And I went, well, yeah, because that's how Return of the Living Dead started that. And she was like, I've never seen Return of the Living Dead. And I stopped everything. I was like, well, now we have to watch Return of the Living Dead.
Man, I have deja vu to that story almost.
Because you've never seen Return of the Living Dead 2, which was a bizarre turn of events as well.
Dear listener, we had just finished our Stepfather marathon. Stepfather 1, Stepfather 2, Stepfather 3, and Stepfather Remake.
See, people hear Stepfather marathon, they're like, night on Pornhub, huh?
Yep. Help me, Stepfather. And we had literally just wrapped the remake, which not a great movie. That one did not age well for me. But I was getting ready to go, and I can't remember how we got on the subject, but we basically got on the subject of Return of the Living Dead Part 2, and I was like, yeah, I've never seen it, never heard. I heard it wasn't good. And you dead stopped, and you were just like, what? And I was like, yeah, I'd never seen it. I didn't hear it was good. Like, I've seen 1 and I've seen 3, so I figured that was it.
I mean, you're a black t-shirt wearing Alice Cooper.
We had
loving
just literally
movie.
watched Stepfather 3, which is like the fucking Showtime movie.
Yeah. I was just, my mind was blown. I was like, how could you?
Yeah.
You have never seen Part 2.
Well, because I'd heard, in which we, that was one of the reasons you showed me the copy you did, because I'd heard that the music had been replaced on the Warner Brothers DVD, and it was bad studio music, and I'd also heard that like it was basically a rehash of the first movie with the same actors and just a little cheaper.
I mean, you're not except it was actually more.
It was
expensive.
more expensive, yeah. But everybody always said it looked cheaper, so like I was really blown away by how good it was and how funny it was.
It's super fun, and funny. I mean, it's. A lot of people like to dig on that movie by saying that it's like the Police Academy of zombie movies. I think Ken Wiederhorn said he wanted to make the Police Academy of horror movies, but it is. And it clicks really well when you're a little kid, because one of the main characters is a little kid.
Yeah.
My cousin Jeff, he loves Return of the Living Dead 2 because he was that kid's age when he saw it. So, but no, it's just, it blows my mind when people haven't seen that, because zombies liking brains has become, in the like horror Mandela effect, it is the Jason using a chainsaw. Yeah. It never happened, but people
believe it.
Yeah. All through the 90s, there was always a guy with a hockey mask with a chainsaw, and it was like, he never uses a chainsaw.
I'm 90% sure like one of like the early movie Maniac Jason figures had a chainsaw with it. And that could be it too.
That wouldn't shock me at all.
Yeah. But no, going back to that, it's funny because 3 was the one I saw even before Return.
Wow.
Because
you were a little goth kid?
Well, 3 used to play on Sci-Fi all the damn time.
Yeah, it did.
So, but going back to the movie, tagline, only one this time. They're back from the grave and ready to party.
I mean, it's pretty solid.
Pretty solid.
Yeah.
In the trivia, I do have a couple unused taglines that we'll get to, but at this recording, it is currently available to stream on MGM Plus, Pluto TV, Tubi. You can also rent it on Prime and Fandango. And if you are a fan of the film or a fan of zombie movies, beautiful 4K, beautiful Blu-ray available from Screen Factory.
We watched the 4K tonight, both of us for the first time.
Yeah.
On my 4K projection system, and wow.
Yeah. No, big time.
I mean, I had noticed a lot of details when it came out on Blu-ray that I'd never noticed before, because this was a movie I'd watched many times.
But that was with my interlacing on that TV.
I don't want to talk to you anymore. That was it.
That was the stopping point.
The trust is kaput.
Did we turn it off? Did you make me turn it off? I can't remember.
Of course I did.
I thought you did.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you were just kind of like, no, it's fine. It's fine. I was like, I can shut that off.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Let me fix your life.
Fix the fucking movie.
For those who don't know what television interlacing is, you're lucky.
It was on my PS3 like that, because that was one of the reasons.
It was on the PS3
or was the PS3? No, it was the PS3 because I didn't have a TV. It was a monitor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I had a giant computer monitor as a TV for the longest time.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
So director and writer on the film is Dan O'Bannon. He is the director and writer for Return of the Living Dead in 1985. He also directs The Resurrected, which is a 1991 Chris Sarandon Lovecraft film that I have not seen, but I've heard is interesting.
That's why I had it confused with The Unnameable, because that's a Lovecraft movie.
Yeah.
And around the exact same time.
But he is also the writer and star of Dark Star, John Carpenter's first film in 1974.
Spaced Out Odyssey. That's a fun movie.
Alien in 1979, he's a writer on. Phobia, Dead and Buried in 81, which we may have to talk about that. I'm a very big fan of that movie. That's a good movie.
Maybe can we bury you alive on the show?
No, if we do Buried Alive, we've got to do the good Buried Alive, that TV movie.
It is good.
Heavy Metal in 81, he writes on. Blue Thunder in 83, Life Force in 85, Invaders from Mars, Aliens, he gets character credit on. Total Recall in 1990, Alien 3 gets character credit. Screamers, Bleeders in 97, and then from that point, he got credited for characters and like all the Alien stuff coming out since then.
Yeah, because he started a bunch of really incredible franchises.
He did unfortunately leave us back in 2009, December 17th, at age 63 from Crohn's disease.
Wow, from Crohn's.
Crohn's at 63. That's young.
Yeah, that's very young.
Another writer on the film is Rudy Ricky. He gets his start in 1971 writing The Affair, then goes on to do The Devil and Sam Silverstein in 76, Liberation of Cherry Janoski in 76, Return of the Living Dead in 85. He gets a story credit on. He's also the actor in 1968 or the Light of the Living Dead 68. He plays a zombie. He unfortunately passed March 8th of 2012 at 72, complications from a fall.
Was he did he have a story credit because he worked on the novel that they were originally supposed to? Because it was originally a John Russo book called Return of the Living Dead.
He's the third to last, and then we'll get to the last one. But yeah, Russo is the next one. John Russo is our writer on this. He is the writer of Night of the Living Dead 68, does the screenplay. Liberation of Cherry Janoski in 76, which he also directs. Midnight in 82, which he does the novel screenplay for and directs the film.
Yes.
Then he also does Return of the Living Dead in 85, The Majorettes in 86, which he's the novel screenplay, and I think the director of that one.
Which one was it?
Majorettes.
I'm not sure if he directed that
I don't know if he did or not. Heartstopper in 89, he directs. Night of the Living Dead in 90, he gets credit on. Voodoo Dawn in 1990. Midnight 2 in 93, which he directs.
Sex, Lies, and Videotape.
Santa Claus, 1996, he directs.
Scream Queen!
Scream Queen's Naked Christmas in 96, he directs.
If you love silly Christmas slasher ridiculousness with an insane amount of nudity.
Yeah.
Santa Claus, like the
CLAWS.
There's an incredible
call me Santa Finger Knife.
Santa Finger Knife. That came out as Yoda. But you got to check out that Blu-ray that TerrorVision put out.
But you know what DVD you can avoid is in 1999, Night of the Living Dead 30th anniversary.
Do you remember when we tried to revisit that one night?
Yes, I do. We stopped.
So I'm going to tell you something real fast. When I was doing my first horror host show, Cult Theater, we did Night of the Living Dead because every horror host has to do Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
And one of the gags that we did on that episode was we did this thing where a little Chiron is what they used to call him. Text came up on the screen over black and just said, and now a sneak preview of John Russo's next film. And then it was just a toilet flushing.
That's mean, but funny.
I was 14.
Yeah, that sounds
and
like
I was
14.
that mad about Night of the Living Dead 90.
Yeah.
And Children of the Living Dead.
And Children, yeah.
So, see, we could talk about, you want to talk about trauma. I don't want to hear about your bullies. Let's talk about John fucking Russo.
So Lunatics in 2002, which he directs. Night of the Living Dead 3D in 06. Dead Good Night in 2021. And The Night They Came Home in 2024. He's still got some stuff in the cooking right now.
Oh, he's around.
Yeah.
And he did that. I think he produced and he starred in that My Uncle John is a Zombie movie.
That's also one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Last writer on the film is Russell Streiner. He gets his start as a writer in 76 on The Devil and Sam Silverstein, which he does the screenplay for. Return of the Living Dead in 85. He has a story credit on. And most famously is Johnny in Night of the Living Dead 1968.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
That would be him.
Super nice guy.
Yeah, he is.
I've met him over the course of 25 years on and off. Super nice guy.
I think I met him probably about 15 years ago.
Yeah, he and his brother Gary worked a lot with George Romero during his commercial days and all of that at the Leighton Image.
Yeah.
And Gary was like the nicest guy in the world. He's since passed, but he was the nicest guy in the world.
Do we have, is it like there's 3 people left in the original cast? Because Kyra's still with us, right?
Yeah, Kyra's
still with
no,
us.
There's a few people still with us.
Okay.
They're always finding a few more zombie extras too.
Yeah.
Because there were just so many people to find. It's my cousin Jeff wrote the official home video history of Night of the Living Dead.
Fantastic
so I've gotten
book.
to be around some of the modern Image 10 people because they're still kicking.
Yes, they are.
So
cinematographer on the film is Jules Brenner, who gets to start as DP in 1969 as on Stoney, then goes to do Johnny Got His Gun in 71, The Glass House, no, not that one, in 72, Dillinger in 73, Unwed Father 74, Our Time, The Texas Wheelers, Cornbread Earl and Me, Medical Story, The Night That Panicked America in 75, 76 does Helter Skelter.
Okay.
Then goes to shoot the $1 Million Ripoff in 76, The Amazing Howard Hughes, Outlaw Blues, The Last Word. And then in 1979, shoots a little miniseries called Salem's Lot.
Wow, okay.
We're not done.
I believe you.
Then in 1981, goes to shoot The Killing of Randy Webster. In 1985, Return of the Living Dead, MacGyver in 85, Pros and Cons. 87, Teen Wolf 2.
TOO.
Yep. Followed by 1969 and 88, Not Quite Human 2 in 89, and then Sins of the Mother in 91.
Wow.
Yeah. Pretty
Quite
impressive.
a career. Yeah.
Helter Skelter, funny enough, I love being a physical media collector because, having a mother who showed me a bunch of movies, one of which being The Burbs with Tom Hanks.
Nice.
That movie's not streaming anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
There's a huge rights issues with it currently. I don't know what it is. But Mom texted me a couple days ago, and she was like, hey, is The Burbs in Vudu? And I was like, no. I was like, that's a rights issue. She's like, well, do you have it? And I was like, yeah. I was like, you want to borrow my Blu-ray? And she's like, yeah, that'd be cool. Took that over to her about 3 days ago. Last night, I'm coming back from a movie night with a friend, and she texts me, and she's like, hey, do you still have Helter Skelter? Because she's reading that Chaos book and also watching that Netflix series right now.
Yeah, okay.
So she borrowed not only the 1976, but also the 2003, which is Jeremy Davies as Charles Manson.
I remember that.
Dude, it's really good.
I remember that.
Both of
coming
those
out.
are really good. Helter Skelter 76 focuses a lot more on the trial, whereas 2003 focuses a lot more on the murders and the preemptive build up to it.
So I don't talk a lot of positivity about my education, and I have much more fun talking about my lack thereof.
Yes.
But I had a phenomenal English teacher, I believe my freshman year, and he taught an entire section about Helter Skelter.
Oh, wow.
Not about the crime specifically, although he mentions them, but about the idea of Charles Manson hearing the Beatles.
Yeah.
And feeling like that inspired all this crazy stuff. And that was how he explained to us the idea of interpretation of art.
Yeah.
And then it led into him giving a huge long thing about Paul is Dead and how he believes, and a lot of people I'm sure do too, that the reason the Beatles never copped to the Paul is Dead thing was when Charles Manson did all these horrible things and said, the Beatles told me to do it. They were like, we never hid anything.
No.
We're not playful at all. We're very straightforward artists.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Beatles, so, but I just kudos to him. He was a really great teacher, and I was enthralled the entire time he lectured about Helter Skelter and all that. And I also want to say that it makes perfect sense that the guy shot Helter Skelter, and then that led him to Salem's Lot.
Yeah.
Because
I will do as many hours as it takes to convince people to watch that original miniseries, because I think it kind of got shadowed by all the remakes recently. I would say in a little bit. And that original 74 miniseries, or is it 74?
Somewhere in that neighborhood.
Just had it, of course. 79. So that 79 miniseries is still fucking scary. Still scary.
Oh, it's very scary.
Still effective, and still one of Stephen King's greatest adaptations.
Yeah, I would agree.
According to Stephen King, too.
Well, every adaptation, whichever one just paid him, is the best one that ever happened.
But yeah, no, that's incredible filmography. So moving on to our cast, we have Mr. Clu Gulager, who plays Bert in the film.
Clu is the GOAT.
165 credits.
I actually thought it'd be more.
I did too. Starting in 1952 with Omnibus. Then he goes on to do West Point in 56, Wanted Dead or Alive TV series, Have Gun Will Travel, Laramie, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, The Killers from 64, The Virginian, The FBI, The Glass House, again, not that one, Mod Squad, Kung Fu, McHugh, Streets of San Francisco, Barnaby Jones, The Other Side of Midnight, A Force of One, Falcon Crest.
All roads lead to Falcon Crest.
The Initiation in 84. That movie's fun. Like Chopping Mall, don't get me wrong, great slasher film in a mall, but The Initiation, another great slasher film in a mall.
Chopping Mall having killer robots kind of takes it out of feeling like it's in the slasher category.
I could see that.
And honestly, smartest move ever, because it also doesn't get lumped in and lost with all the slasher movies in the mall. It's its own thing. Yeah. And I love that.
The Initiation has always like one of my like most like memorable scenes is the use of the thing where they slam papers down on the spike.
Yeah, it's called a spike.
Yeah, and there's that scene where the PA gets turned on and her hand goes through it, and there's all that blood and everything just echoing through the mall.
I
intense.
I forget what that was a double feature with. I first discovered that from Best Buy.
Oh God, what was that double feature?
Because The Initiation, they used to. So Anchor Bay did these drive-in double features for forever.
Mountaintop Motel Massacre.
It might have been Mountaintop Motel Massacre.
I think it is,
because there was also The Pit and something else.
Yeah,
and that's how I first saw
Hellgate.
And Hellgate. Yep. And I used to, no joke, they were $10 or $15, brand new back then at Best Buy, and they were all released by Anchor Bay.
Yeah.
And I used to, whenever they would come out, I'd go buy it. I'm like 15 years old, 16. I'd go buy it, and then when everybody went to bed, when my mom went to bed and everybody, I would commandeer the living room and make popcorn, and I would sit under the TV watching them and have my own little like movie night double feature with. And most of the time I'd never seen any of them because I'm like 14 and it's the first time most of these had ever been on DVD.
So bad.
Yeah, I know.
It's so bad. Like I actually went out of my way to get a Region A DVD that was outside of the Arrow release of Hellgate that somebody was just selling separately, because I was just like, it looks like fun.
Why not?
The movie's terrible.
It's not a great one.
Knight Rider in 86, Into the Night in 85, The Return of the Living Dead in 85, then does Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge in 85, followed by Magnum P.I., The Fall Guy, North and South, From a Whisper to a Scream in 87.
My buddy Jeff Burr.
The Hidden in 87.
Yeah.
Tapeheads in 88, I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, The Willies, Eddie Presley in 1992.
One of my favorite films of all time, another one by my buddy Burr.
Puppet Master 5 in 94.
Again, Burr for the win.
Walker, Texas Ranger in 95.
I mean, a classic.
Takes a hiatus for a little bit and then Feast in 2005.
Yeah.
Then he goes on to do Piranha 3 Double D, Children of the Corn, Runaway, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in 2019, and last, Give Till It Hurts in 2022. He also left us in 2022, August 5th at 93 from natural causes.
Yeah, he was a legend.
Legend.
And his legend isn't just in film. If you talk to anybody who's actively living in Los Angeles, they knew Clu to some extent, because he had a seat at the New Beverly that he always sat in, that
had a plaque and everything,
to the point that they put a plaque on the chair.
Yep.
So his name was on the seat, and because he lived there basically. He would just sit in on a million screenings, especially during that period where he didn't work at all. He was just retired.
Yeah.
I don't think Clu thought he was going to live to be into his 90s.
No.
So I think that's why he started acting again, in part. I don't know about finances, but just, one day he was like, well, I did my 6 years of just watching movies and hanging out, and hell.
If you have not seen, I think it's called Out of Print. Is that the New Beverly documentary title?
I think so.
Yeah, Out of Print is a fantastic documentary. Features a lot of people from Hollywood, obviously, and there's a huge section about Clu in there.
Yeah, no, he was a legend.
Yeah.
So
next on our list is James Karen, who plays Frank. 214 credits on his resume.
That doesn't shock me.
Starting in 1948 with Philco Television Playhouse.
Oh my God.
Then goes on to be in Car 54, Where Are You in 61, Hercules in New York in 1970, All My Children in 1970, Amazing Grace, Streets of San Francisco, All the President's Men in 76, The Blue Knight, Love Boat, Capricorn 1, Rockford Files, The China Syndrome in 79, The Jazz Singer, The Jeffersons, Poltergeist in 82, because he's the man who moved the headstones.
Yeah, damn right.
But he didn't move the bodies.
Yeah.
Time Walker in 82, MASH in 83, Family Ties, Cheers, Return of the Living Dead in 85, Jagged Edge, Invaders from Mars, Amazing Stories, Wall Street in 87, Sledgehammer in 87.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Moving on to Girlfriend from Hell in 89, Charles in Charge, The Willies, The Larry Sanders Show, Revenge of the Nerds 4, Nerds in Love. Don't recommend that one. The Commish, Congo, Piranha, the Piranha remake in 95.
Yeah, I remember him popping up in that.
Nixon, Joyride, Seinfeld, Apt Pupil, Any Given Sunday, Walker, Texas Ranger, Mulholland Drive, The Nightmare Room, Superman Returns, American Dad, and Cynthia in 2018. He left us in 2018, October 23rd, 94, from a cardiac arrest.
But you left out possibly his greatest acting accomplishment.
What was that?
Being the guy in the A&P supermarket commercials.
Oh, that's right. Yep. That is how he was known.
He was everywhere in those ad campaigns.
Yeah.
And I shopped at A&P when I lived in Jersey because we don't have those in Ohio, but we had those in Jersey. And A&P's gone now.
Yeah.
And it was the most bizarre thing because I think it was just before COVID, the last time I'd went to Jersey, A&P was closing everything. And me and my buddy Mike went to an A&P and literally they had price tags on the shelving. I mean, it was just everything.
Everything must go.
But it was the most like weird and depressing to see a supermarket just that was like synonymous with the East Coast.
Yeah.
Gone because in the East Coast, it was A&P and Stop and Shop were like everything.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to mention his contribution to the world of supermarkets.
They feature some of his videos of A&P in the More Brains documentary.
That's how I first found out about it.
Yeah. Thom Matthews, who plays Freddy, also in our cast. He gets his start in 81 on Dynasty. 82 goes on to be on Falcon Crest.
All roads.
Then stars in The Woman in Red with Gene Wilder in 84, Return of the Living Dead in 85, Dangerously Close, Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives in 86, The Dirty Dozen, The Deadly Mission in 87, Mr. President, Return of the Living Dead Part 2, Alien from L.A., Midnight Cabaret, Born to Ride in 91. Have you heard about this movie, by the way?
Born to Ride?
John Stamos as a motorcycle gang leader.
I mean, it sounds awesome.
It's in my voodoo because I recently got it in that shuffle that I lucked into, and I'm dying to check it out because the cover is him just leaning on a bike with a shotgun.
Goddamn right it is. Sounds bitchin'.
Blood Match in 91, Nemesis in 92, Kickboxer 4, The Aggressor, Heat Seeker, ER, If Looks Could Kill, not that one.
Oh.
Blast from 1997, that Rutger Hauer terrorist movie that we watched one night about the pool team.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Mean Guns in 97, The Peacemaker, Crazy Six, Sorcerers, The Vampire Hunters Club in 2001, Friday the 13th, The Game in 2017. Because he voiced Tommy.
Voiced Tommy again.
Never Hike Alone in 2017, fan film. Killer Therapy, Warpath, Final Summer, Never Hike Alone 2, and most recently, Go Away in 2024.
Wow.
So he's still going.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I love that he's been reprising his Tommy Jarvis role in fan films. You know, because
it's been fun.
If they're not going to give us our silly sequels, well, then damn it, we're going to have to make them ourselves.
Well, and I it's one thing for us to bring up Friday the 13th, the game, but I don't know if we've ever talked about it on this show, but like we were dedicated to that game for a long period of time with good friends.
Oh God, yeah.
I mean, we would start at like 6 p.m. on a Saturday and go until sometimes 4 in the morning.
I bought a PS4 so I could play it.
And I got a PS4 as your friend and other friends to play it with you guys.
Yeah, I got all of our friends to go in and get you a PS4.
Yeah, on my 25th birthday.
Yeah, because you wanted in so bad.
Oh, I did. No, I remember when you fired it up for the first time, and you were in a cabin, and Jason just came around that back door, and I was just like, "Holy shit, this is awesome!"
That first year of playing, it scared the crap out of me all the time too.
No, R.I.P. Friday the 13th, the game. It recently went offline, and we've been missing it ever since.
I mean, unfortunately, since they couldn't update it anymore, it had been kind of...
The lawsuit killed it, unfortunately.
Yeah, it had been kind of dead for a while anyway, but there was a time period where we would start to lull, and then they'd release a new Jason, or they'd release a new map. And we'd be like, whoa.
Or double XP weekends.
Yeah, you used to come over, and I'd get the TV out of my bedroom and put it in the kitchen, and you'd play on the other side of the house.
You just reminded me I need to download a Sal Jason video before Facebook takes it down.
Yeah, you better.
I better. So what was your first time watching Return of the Living Dead?
Well, I'll tell you, it's a weird way to put it, but I don't remember.
Okay.
Because I saw it so young that what I do remember is my mother teasing me by acting like a zombie, going, brains. And my favorite story about that was one time my mom was laying on the couch and she was like half asleep. And I was like, Mom. I was 5, 4. I don't know. Mom. And she just opened her eyes and lifted her head and went, brains. And I dropped to the floor crying. I was so scared.
Yeah, I can see that.
So that was the first time, it had to have been back then.
Yeah.
But I didn't really like revisit it by like sitting down and really watching it until I caught it on Monster Vision when I could have been 10 or 11, maybe 12.
Tearing the heart out of Saturday night.
Goddamn right. And I mean, I was really, really young, but I remember Joe Bob showing it and I was like, I'm going to sit down and watch Return of the Living Dead, because 2 played cable, like HBO and stuff, a lot when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I loved the hell out of it. Then I obtained the DVD when it came out. And then I obtained the DVD bootleg, which had the sound from the VHS release, so all of the soundtrack was original.
Yeah.
So that was the first time I watched it. Was too young to remember, but I really came into adoring it in my teen years. Once I had that DVD, I'd watch it all the time. Any horror nerd friends I made as I got older, I'd be like, dude, do you want to watch Return of the Living Dead, but with the original soundtrack? Because the first DVD had a ton of replaced music.
Yeah, it did.
Now we only have one song.
One song missing, which I'm sure there's probably a cut out there that they cut it back in.
No, I guarantee it. The only problem is we can't burn a 4K disc.
We cannot. Nope. My first time seeing it, like I said, I had seen 3 multiple times on cable by this point. So 3 was the one that I saw first out of any of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I had heard about it. I'd probably seen like some of the talking heads, like the 100 scariest moments, like on Bravo and stuff, like talk about and whatnot. So I was aware of the movie, just never really had gotten a copy of it until I was working at my local bookstore and somebody brought it in with some stuff to sell. Took it home that night, watched it, and was just blown away by how much fun it was.
Oh, it's a blast.
It's just a blast. It moves so quickly. You're talking, like I said, 91 minutes, and it doesn't feel like it. Like, it flies by.
Honestly, it feels like it's 80 minutes.
Yeah. Like,
it feels short.
It feels short. Yeah. It's so much fun. It had insanely dark ending that I didn't expect. The first time you watch it.
Every time I watch it, I kind of forget that that's the ending.
Yeah.
I kind of forget.
Yeah. But it was one that when you see that moment when you see a movie and you're just like, this movie's going to be with me forever now. Like there's no turning back.
God,
I've seen this now and I want to show other people this.
And I try, although sometimes I fail, I try to watch it on July 3rd, which is technically the day it takes place because it's 4th of July weekend and all that. So I usually try to watch it on July 3rd or at the very least share the shot from the movie where it says July 3rd.
Well, naturally, Party Time by 45 Grave, that version of it, the way that they end it with the credits and like, as we said, like last time on Return of the Living Dead.
It ends like a party.
Yeah.
It wants you to know that ending credit sequence is meant to like kind of let you know you're supposed to be laughing.
Yeah.
That it was meant to be a thrill ride with lots of humor and lots of sardonic wit and lots of weird Easter eggs.
Yeah, you can't get out of this movie not having a good time with it. It's you would have
so
to
much try
fun. You would
hard.
have to try. Yeah. It's so much fun, and it's like it is the epitome of a zombie movie that you want because it's a scary zombie movie, but also has the laughs, has the gore, has thrills, chills, and chemical spills.
Did you just come up with that?
Yeah. Thank you.
No, I'm impressed.
All right.
I'm impressed. That was pretty solid.
As Enrique said, we do open on July 3rd, but before we do that, we get to a title card that says the events portrayed in this film are all true. The names are real names of real people and real organizations. Which
I wonder how the lawyers at, I think it was Orion. I wonder how they felt about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I would guess that the argument was made that look at this movie, there's no way. I mean, it's literally the dead rising from the ground and stuff.
Yeah.
So they were like, nobody's going to believe that. But yeah, it does the opposite of where it'll say like, this is based on a true story, but the names have been changed or whatever. No, it just says like, these are all real events. This really happened. These are the real names, the real businesses, everything. That kills me. And that kind of sets you up. Because if you don't know what you're getting, you're like,
what is this?
What?
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of the people who were watching it were expecting a Night of the Living Dead sequel.
Yeah.
Which is what the novel they had originally bought the rights to was.
Which I'll get into that in the trivia too about all that. Because I mean,
it's a lot.
It's a huge thing because I don't think people realize that Romero's Dead saga, I guess we can call it now at this point, had a lot of legal litigation to it.
Well, yeah, because Russo and Romero wrote the screenplay together.
Yeah.
And they had a bit of a falling out.
Yeah.
To the point where Russo was like the only person originally in Image 10 who's not in Image 10.
Yeah.
It just kind of happened that way.
It's just interesting that like people automatically, I think, sometimes think this movie is in that canon.
Absolutely.
And it's technically not.
Well, for fuck's sake, it's Return.
Yeah. Of the Living Dead.
Yeah. Of course, then there's Return to Horror High.
Yeah.
And there's a Horror High.
Return of the Killer Tomatoes.
Well, that was a sequel, David. Son of a bitch.
So we open on July 3rd, 1984, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time at Uvita Chemicals. Unida, yeah. Medical supplies, not chemicals.
It's okay.
Yeah, you know.
You're still riding high on your turn of phrase.
Thrills, chills, and chemical spills.
No, it's good.
Solid.
It's good.
It's solid.
Can't pretend
I'm going to leave now.
No, it's fair. It's fair. You go ahead and I'll just do my Yoda Freddy voice more.
So we're in Louisville, Kentucky, and we are meeting Frank as he is introducing Freddy, the new guy, to basically the rundown of things as Bert, the owner of the facility, is leaving for the day.
And what's the other guy who works the guy who works for Bert?
Frank.
Frank.
Yeah.
Frank, it's his nephew.
Yeah.
That he's showing the ropes because they need warehouse help.
Yeah.
And have you worked warehouse?
No, not
you would know.
Not, I'll put it this way, not as a like job. I've been paid under the table to work like a couple warehouse jobs back in college, but like that
shipping and receiving and stuff.
Packing crates. Yeah.
I worked my first job. I had a lot of jobs because I worked at a distribution company and we had a warehouse, and a lot of times if they were really busy in the catalog department where we sold movies, we shipped movies to other distributors, to stores, and to individuals. So I spent many days picking and packing is what they call it. And I love the opening of this movie because it captures so well your first day at a job.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like you got the young guy who's like trying not to mess it up because he needs a job clearly. And then the old timer who's just like, I just want to laugh or whatever. I've been here for 25 goddamn years.
I mean, Thom Matthews and James Karen are what make this movie. I mean, all the characters are great, but their camaraderie in the beginning and then adding Bert into the mix later on, it just is what makes this movie so much fun.
It's one of the arguments for why they brought them back in part 2 was that they were such an incredible part of it. Although in that one, they're grave robbers.
They're grave robbers, but it works so well.
Oh, it's same jokes. Watch your tongue if you like this job. Like this job. Yeah, it's after something really heinous happens.
Yeah.
There's that watch your tongue if you like this job. Like this job.
So Frank has taken Freddy through the ropes. He's shown him the skeletons, the ones that have perfect teeth, going over male and female and all this stuff.
And also spinning a little bullshit for fun too, like saying like, I think there's a skeleton farm. And then he's like, come on.
Yeah.
And then when he makes, and I love too when Freddy adds the levity.
Yeah.
He's just like, quiet kid, you're learning.
So
like, it's very funny.
Shows him that they have medical specimens for vets. Like they've got dogs cut in half, split dogs. They've got all kinds of stuff. Dead butterflies are on the wall. They've got cadavers in the fridge. There's a little bit of everything in this place.
Yeah, well, and it makes sense because working in a medical supply house, you have to get very comfortable with all the weird stuff very quickly.
Yeah.
And I love how the production design's so solid in this movie, because if you look in the background, which you really can in the 4K on the 120-inch screen, you see like there are boxes that just say like 500 milliliter beakers, because that's the other stuff you would need.
Yeah.
It's just your bread and butter would be stocking skeletons, stocking corpses and cadavers, which the funny thing is, I know I'm getting old because when he was saying like, well, we usually have more, but we only have one. We're waiting on a shipment on Monday. He's like, but you don't want to overstock. You don't want it's like the food business. You don't want your inventory to lose its freshness. But my first thought now that I'm older, my first thought was like, oh my God, the regulatory paperwork to run a place it must be a nightmare.
Yeah, no kidding. So all of this going on, we also catch up with Freddy's girlfriend, Tina, who is with the friends of Freddy, which includes Suicide and Trash and... Who else? I'm trying to remember the fucking names.
And Rudolph and
Chuck and Spider and Scuzz.
Now, and these guys are about as stereotypical punk rockers, 80s punk rockers as you can get.
Yeah.
They have a ton of varying styles, which I like. You've got, guys who've got like the piercings out of control. You got the guys who are just like wearing the wristbands and the cut off jackets,
giant trench coats.
You got some people got mohawks. Some people got just tall kind of flock of seagulls hair. You've got like, it ticks like every box.
Yeah.
And then the young woman who's Freddy's girlfriend, in my opinion, doesn't fit at all with the group.
Beverly Randolph and Jewel Shepard really are like the ones that stand out most because they're dressed nothing like the group.
Jewel looks like a punk.
A little bit.
She's got that kind of flock of seagulls looking haircut thing.
She's a party girl.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
But the what was the other girl?
Tina.
Yeah. Tina's wearing like pants up to her belly button and a shirt and a jacket and a hair thingy. Like she just doesn't look like this is her crowd.
Yeah, no, it does not.
And when you look at Freddy, Freddy's supposed to be working, but he's working a warehouse job. So he's wearing a sleeveless shirt. He's got a little rat tail on the back of his hair. He's got bleach top hair and he's got one earring.
Yep.
So you could kind of see like, oh, maybe he's just not as ostentatious as the rest of them.
Yeah.
Or he's just dressing down because he's like, it's a job. It's a warehouse job.
Yeah.
So I don't have to like cut my hair.
Yeah.
But I can't show up wearing like a spiked bracelets and leather jackets.
So they're driving to meet Freddy because Freddy gets off at 8. Is that or is it 10?
I think they said 10.
10. Okay. Yeah. So he gets off at 10. So they arrive at 8 o'clock and they're like, well, I'm not going to stay here for 2 hours is what Suicide says. He's the one driving the car. And that's when I think it's, I can't remember if it is Spider or Scuzz that says, well, let's go there. And there's a cemetery right across the way.
And they're all like, oh, man, not again. Well, at first they say, like, we could always go this place or this place. Like, no, man, the cops said if we go back to that place, they'll shoot us.
And, cost gas. Do you have money for gas?
Oh, yeah. He was like, we could always drive around. He's like, you want to buy some gas?
So by Unita, there is a cemetery that they decide to go ahead and break into.
Yeah, pretty easily.
Yeah, very easily.
The place is clearly not often used anymore. It's pretty unkempt. And yeah, they busted there. And I love that Trash, played by Linnea Quigley, she is the dark girl. So like when she's already talking about like death and this and this and this. And then when they say like and everybody goes, oh, I'm not the cemetery. She goes, let's do that. I love the way her deadpan delivery, especially because that's so not Linnea and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
Is so great. Let's do that. Just very flat, direct.
So they break into the cemetery. Meanwhile, back at the medical supply, we are seeing that Frank and I'm blanking the name. Frank and Freddy are sitting down. They're doing paperwork, and that's when they get into a discussion about Night of the Living Dead.
Have you ever seen that film, Night of the Living Dead? And he basically tells him like it was a true story. He's like, but they showed zombies taking over the world. He's like, well, they changed it all around. Also love that he says it so simply. He's just like, They told the filmmaker that if he tried to tell the true story, they'd just sue his ass off. And I'm like, I mean, he's like violating government confidence.
Yeah.
But I like that it's just sue his ass off. Well, because this is so that secondhand, it's Friday.
Yeah.
We're kind of goofing off. Like work is going to be over soon. It's the vibe is so Friday.
Oh yeah. No, 100%.
And they've set up it's a holiday weekend. When Bert's leaving, he literally says like, I'll see you at the barbecue on Sunday. He says, I won't miss it. And then he goes, hey, just do me a favor. Whatever you do, don't name it after me, kid. And he leaves. He's clearly like that boss who's just kind of, I'm sure he can be pretty intense, but it's like, it's the weekend. Like, just get the work done. Get the hell out of here.
So that's when they get into the topic of trioxin 245.
245 trioxin, the chemical that he claims
is what started the zombie.
Because they were developed it to spray on marijuana. I love that they never explain why.
Yeah, that is always one thing I do like. That marijuana is brought up and then never talked about again.
That the army, it was for spraying on marijuana. I'm assuming to kill the marijuana
I would guess. Maybe.
Because why would the military want to preserve marijuana plants or to poison marijuana?
Them?
But even then, it's like, what would the purpose?
Yeah.
But just by throwing that in there, though, it makes it even more of one of those like urban legend tall tales because now you've involved, because remember this is the 80s, an illicit drug connection too, which just makes everybody's ears perk up.
Well, and his delivery of, what happened? He's like, typical government fuck up. I love that line delivery.
Yeah, because he's like, how do you know if it's such a secret? And he says, typical government fuck up. They took all the soil and the corpses and everything and they
put them in barrels.
And they sent them away to keep it a secret. And he's like, well, how do you know? He's like, typical government fuck up. They sent some of those barrels here, which I love because what? Yeah. But then when he says like, do you want to see it?
Yeah.
They go down. There are barrels down there
with military stamping and property. If you see this number or if you see this, call this number.
And I love the simplicity of the barrels. Just say property of the Department of the Army.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that that's the wrong wording, but it's just so like, well, there's no misreading that.
So that is when Frank takes an entire roll of paper towels, mind you, sprays them with some Windex, and wipes off the canister as he lifts the lid, and we see a corpse inside there.
Now, I want to say, because you singled out wiping the canister with the whole roll of paper towels, this is a wonderful example of an actor. I'm betting he came up with that.
Yeah.
That it wasn't in the script or something. Because there's a lot of good improv in this movie. Yeah. But that's one of those great examples of an actor making one little choice that everyone remembers forever.
Picks up on. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So he wipes it down. We see a corpse inside, and that's causes Freddy to ask, is there any worry about leakage? He's like, oh, no, these things are tight. U.S. government slaps it.
He says these were designed by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
Slaps it, and then the gas is released, and they start coughing, fall into the floor, and we get into the opening credits of The Return of the Living Dead. And one of the best themes.
As a child, that was the funniest joke in the world.
Oh, yeah.
There's something so great, especially when you're young, when you got a little bit simpler, that the idea of somebody saying something and then immediately it being negated.
Well, and I didn't expect it. When I was watching it for the first time, and he slaps it, and then it just completely breaks like that, and we just go into everything. I'm like, oh, shit, I'm so in.
And the Trioxin theme song is amazing. Bump, 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 bump.
So good.
And we get to see that this gas is getting all over them.
Yeah.
We see all of this stuff happening. And now when they wake up, they look really sick.
They look sick. They're still coughing. They're gagging. And that's when he's like, something's not right. So they make their way back up the steps. And we start to hear some animal sounds, strictly dogs.
Yeah, whining dogs.
Whining dogs.
Like, what the hell is that?
And we make our way over to the split shelf, and one of the dogs, actually all of them, are alive and moving.
They're moving. Well, what happens, they'd already fallen over from moving.
Yeah.
And the reveal is great. He goes to check this dog, and when he lifts it up, the other side is gone because it's been split in half. And they're freaked out, obviously. And I love how the little touches, like when they run past, all of the pinned butterflies, their wings are moving, and there's this sound of a heart to like kind of make it seem
done
like,
simply with a fan. That's the one thing I love that I picked up on. They blew a fan right at them.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it would work.
That would work.
So it's a great touch. So now we're realizing that basically anything that's dead, regardless of how dead it is, because like if you're cut in half, I don't care how good a veterinarian you are.
So we hear the cadaver going crazy in the freezer, and they're freaking out about that. And I mean, basically anywhere they look in this facility now is alive.
Yeah, anything that can be alive. I mean, basically the only thing not moving is that skeleton because there's no meat.
Yeah, no meat. So that's when we cut back to the cemetery. We find Spider and Trash and Chuck and Casey and Scuzz all having a good time. And Trash even asking, have you ever thought about dying?
Well, she had earlier said something about death in the car, and now she's saying, like, do you ever fantasize about being killed? And he's like,
dying?
No. But it's great. She doesn't even react to his response.
No.
So she just says, like, I imagine a bunch of old men pulling at me and tearing at me and eating me alive.
Foreshadowing.
And then she says, like, but first they'd tear off my clothes, and she just rips her
clothes off.
And I love the line. I'm certain that it was ADR'd later. But there's a great line where you just hear off camera, somebody get some light over here. Trash is taking off her clothes again.
And so then Trash goes to dance on the tombstone, one of the most famous scenes of the movie with the SSQ song. Oh my God, I just blanked on the title.
Make Love Till We Die.
Make Love Till We Die. Thank you. Yeah, I was actually listening to it earlier today.
Yeah.
Done by Stacey Q.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right.
But one of the most memorable scenes of the movie, they're surrounding it. She's taking everything off and just dancing on top of this not mausoleum.
It's a crypt.
It's a crypt. Yeah, thank you.
And she is a Barbie doll.
She is a Barbie doll.
There is a piece of plastic,
yes,
or latex covering her goods, and there's a lot of funny stories about that.
There might be some in the trivia later.
There better be. It's one of the funniest, silliest things you ever hear of.
So by this point, Freddie and Frank realize that something is wrong. Obviously, that everything's back alive. They're not feeling so great, so they have to call Bert. So
we find out that Bert is just kind of like, what? So he shows up.
Yeah.
And the big problem they're trying to deal with, because they don't realize that this is going to be a giant problem likely, is that the cadaver appears to be alive.
Mm-hmm.
Bert is just, I love how one of Bert's first things is, I told you never to fuck with those canisters. Yeah. So they start making a plan. They're like, well, in the movie you had to destroy the brain, right? And I love this part because it's a great example of the movie's comedic timing, which is very good.
Very good.
Because he says, like, we got to destroy the brain, and then Freddy's like, how do you crack open a brain, what do doctors use to crack open a brain? And he's like, surgical drills. And then Bert just walks and goes, here, hold this, Frank.
Pickaxe.
And he just hands him a pickaxe.
Yep.
But it's like, it's funny because he's answering the question physically.
Yes.
He's like, surgical drills. Here, hold this, Frank. He's like, oh.
So they get Freddy to go over, unlock the lock on the door, and so they pull it open. The corpse comes out, comes at him, and charges right at
Bert.
Bert, thank you.
But what's great about that is Bert has gone to like the other side of the damn room.
Yes.
He's making the workers
do
pull
the work.
Pickaxe and open it. And what happens the moment the door opens, he runs only toward Bert.
Only toward Bert. Tackles him into a skeleton.
Not toward anybody else anywhere near him. Straight to him, knocks him into a bunch of skeletons trying to kill him. They have to wrestle this thing off. They hold it down. And finally, Bert gets his hands dirty.
Yep.
And he puts the pickaxe right through the head. And another great moment in the movie because he hits him and it's still screaming and
Cadaver's
moving.
stuck to the ground, screaming, and he's like, "You gotta hit the brain. That is the fucking brain."
Yeah, I hit the fucking brain. It's a wonderful. Anytime Clu Gulager says anything angry, is so fun. I hit the fucking brain.
So then they end up getting a saw, sawing the neck off, which then frees the cadaver and goes chasing
the
after
body
them.
just starts running around with the head still stuck to the ground.
Even more.
And that's when we really realize that we're not dealing with the zombies established in Night of the Living Dead or Dawn of the Dead, which had already come out. Because Day of the Dead actually came out the same year as this one. Actually, I think in the same summer. But it's become clear these are not the same. They're almost impossible to kill.
Yeah.
Possibly totally impossible to kill. And what can be done?
Mm-hmm.
So now he says, I wonder, Ernie Kochtenbrunner or Kochtenbrunner, I don't know how you exactly say it. And he says he's the guy who owns the crematorium across the street.
He usually works late. Let me see. Oh, yep, he's up.
Yeah, he looks through the window. He's like, his light's on. He's in. And he's like, what do you think you could do? He's like, we could use the crematorium. I'm like, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And then he's like, do you think he'll go for it? And he's like, well, we've been friends for almost 25 years. He might do it just out of friendship. I don't know.
We got to figure something out.
So he's like, let's saw it up.
So they saw the corpse up. They're carrying it through the cemetery over to the mortuary.
The body parts each in individual trash bags.
Yep. And we also see that the gang in the cemetery sees them and it's like, hey, is that Freddy? No, that can't be Freddy. Why would he be going to the mortuary?
Yeah, she's like, how do you know it's not Freddy? Because why would Freddy be going into a mortuary?
So we meet Ernie and he is just smoking his pipe. He's got his headphones on, listening to classical music, and he's embalming a corpse, just having his Friday night.
I know. I did not see that coming.
Yeah, we'll get to that too.
There's this one of the many Easter eggs that's really interesting in this movie.
So Bert sneaks in and it startles him, and he actually pulls a Luger on him. And he's like, Bert, I'm sorry.
A Luger is a pistol, for those who don't know, German pistol.
German pistol. So he pulls it on him, and he's like, don't sneak up on me on like that. And he's like, hey, you want some coffee? They kind of strike up conversation, and slowly he's just like, yeah, I got a favor to ask. And then he's like, my guys are outside.
And I love how when he says, I got a favor to ask, but I need discretion, he's like, you can count on me, Bert.
Yeah.
Like, don't worry about it. Also, love that it's Bert and Ernie.
Bert and Ernie.
But he says, like, I need help. He's like, of course. What's up? And then he's like, I got my man out here. He's like, oh, no, that's illegal. Because they're just walking into this mortuary.
So he lies and says that they have rabid weasels, and he's not really going for it.
Another moment forever, though.
Yeah.
Is he just says, what's in the bags? He goes, rabid weasels. like he just came up with it. Like maybe in the back of his mind, he's like, maybe he won't even ask what's in the bag.
Yeah.
Of course he's going to ask what's in the bags.
So eventually they get him to look in the bag because they dump out the severed arm of the cadaver right in front of him, coming alive and grabbing his leg.
Yeah, and he has to, it rips his pant leg. He cuts the pant leg off and just kind of, he's in shock for a second.
Oh, yeah.
So now they've kind of smartened him up to what's going on. And because initially they were like, we want to use a crematorium. He's like, burn them alive? He's like, yeah, that's what I thought. He's like, that's just hideous.
Yeah.
Like, we can't, let me take him out back and shoot him.
So meanwhile, while this is happening, Tina gets the idea that she wants to go check on Freddy because it's 10 o'clock by this point. He's late. So she makes her way over to the supply house and goes down into the basement,
where she finds
the most memorable character of the film.
I was actually going to say one of the most iconic zombies of all time.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Known as the Tar Man.
Yes.
And this is a zombie that appears to be covered in tar, basically. He's covered in this black goop because when the canister first opened, we showed that the corpse kind of started melting.
Yeah.
Because it was being exposed to air for the first time in God knows how long.
Yeah.
So this thing tries to go after her, tries to kill her. She runs up the stairs trying to escape. It's very, very, it's one of the scariest scenes in the film.
Yeah.
Is this woman facing down the Tar Man, and his movements are almost as iconic as the makeup.
Shout out to Alan Trotman, who is the man that plays the Tar Man in this. I mean, it is one of those, like you said, iconic monsters, but like it gets scarier no matter how many times you've seen this. Like, this thing is terrifying, even though it's literally just a thing of sludge with teeth.
Well, because its teeth and its eyes are white.
Yes.
And everything else is jet black.
And it also has a guttural voice that likes to say, more brains.
And they hired the actor you mentioned. He was a dancer.
Yeah.
And very, very skinny.
Yep.
Which was brilliant because they could build up his body to make him look like he's emaciated skeleton.
Also did work with the Muppets.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah. So Tina is chased out by Tarman. Tarman is then locked into the basement for the time being, or at least for the time. So she gets out, but then back at the crematorium, they decide that they're going to go ahead and move forward with burning these.
Yes.
And he wants them to be completely gone, no ashes. The heart is the hardest thing because it's just one giant
tough old muscle.
Full muscle and everything. So he's just like, well, we'll just turn the heat up real high.
And I want to say, watching the movie now as a man almost 40,
yeah,
I really respect Bert and Ernie's friendship element, because there's a part where he says, like, what do I get? He's like, what do you want? And he's like, well, it's a pretty big favor.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I owe you one, man. He's like, all right.
Okay.
So, but as they're talking about doing this bizarrely heinous thing, he says, like, I don't want there to be any evidence of this at all. He says, like, well, there should be nothing but a little, the heart's the hardest thing to burn. He's like, well, we don't want that. He's like, well, then I'll turn it up higher and burn it up. He's like, they'll just be ashes. He's like, well, we don't want those either. He's like, they'll turn it up higher and burn up the ashes. So he's like being a good friend in a really weird situation.
And while this is going on, you've got poor Frank and Freddie off to the side that are starting to feel the effects of what have happened to them.
They're getting paler and paler. Their eyes at dark circles.
And Frank actually makes a comment because he's looking at the oven, and he makes a comment of
some favor.
Yeah, some favor. I could run the damn thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of foreshadowing.
There's a lot of foreshadowing, yes.
Well, one thing that's very clear about Return of the Living Dead is that the screenplay was solid.
Yeah.
And that's Dan O'Bannon, because Dan O'Bannon was a solid screenwriter. As a director, I think that overall he was serviceable. I think Return of the Living Dead, rather, I think is a phenomenal movie. His direction from a cinema standpoint, very simple, but his understanding of great characters, his understanding of like placing the actors, the blocking is really great, because one thing I noticed about 20 years ago now, watching it one time, was there's very little coverage. There's very little close-up shots. It's almost entirely done from master shots, which are wider shots. But while that is kind of, technically boring, it's not, because the actors are engrossing you. The dialogue is so snappy. Their timing is great.
Yeah.
It's almost like a stage play, some of the scenes, because it's just everybody coming and going and saying their lines.
Every scene leads into the next scene.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's the secret to a great screenplay.
Yeah.
But also to being a great editor, because in post-production, you got to trim the fat. And I've never heard, and I could be wrong, but I've never heard Dan O'Bannon bitch that they cut stuff he didn't want out of it. There's never been a director's cut.
No.
So I think Dan looked at the movie very realistically and was like, nope, it's got to move. It's got to be interesting. It's got to keep the audience's attention.
Yeah.
And his humor is what makes this movie stand the test of time.
Yeah. So Ernie eventually turns on the oven. They burn everything up. We see a plume of smoke go into the sky that starts having some rain fall in the cemetery.
Well, we have the same theme play again.
Yes, we do.
That played when the gas first escaped. Oh, excuse me. Escaped. I was trying not to cough into the microphone.
I get you.
There you go. But it goes up into the clouds.
Yeah.
A thunderstorm starts out of nowhere, and as the rain is falling, we see the water go through the dirt down to an old coffin and drip on the foot of a corpse.
Yes.
It's so... One of the big things in cinema is show, don't tell. Whenever possible, you should show and not tell. That is a phenomenal example of show and don't tell.
Yeah. So naturally, things in the cemetery start coming alive, and the gang, by this point, when it starts raining, run back to Suicide's car. His car won't start, so they decide to go and join Tina at the medical facility. They get there. She's still in the basement with Tarman because she tried to run up the steps and fell. So they go down and save her, and Suicide ends up getting it from Tarman. They eventually run away, go back upstairs, and now they're safe for the time being.
Well, and another thing worth mentioning of a massive difference between this and most other zombie films, especially the Romero movies, these zombies are literally raising from the grave.
Yes.
They're in advanced levels of decomposition.
Oh my, yes.
And that really adds a lot to the horror and the nightmarishness and the bizarreness.
So the group has not seen the zombies by this point. They only know about Tarman. So they are in the facility. They've got him taken care of. Meanwhile, back at the mortuary, everything's been burned. They're home free. Bert's so happy. He's shaking Ernie's hand. He's like, I owe you one. he's like, all right, guys, let's go back to the facility. And that's when Frank and Freddie are just like,
we're really sick.
We're really sick. Like, my head feels like it's going to explode. I can feel like I could puke in any second. And by this point, they're lifeless.
Yeah, they have no color in their skin at all.
So Ernie calls for an ambulance. The ambulance comes over. They can't get any vitals on them. They can't get any pulse.
Well, and this is another great subtle moment too. Obviously, Bert wants to protect his business.
Yeah.
That's why he's doing this. He doesn't want the police or the army showing up and tearing his business apart. Ernie's the same way. He doesn't want his business to be hurt by this, but he is a good friend to Bert.
Yeah.
So there's a great moment when they both agree after looking at the guys, are like, we got to call the ambulance.
Yeah.
But when he calls him, the look on his face goes, where he says his funeral home, he's like around back by the crematorium. Yeah, like as he's saying that, you could see him going like, I hope this doesn't bring me a bunch of trouble.
And he goes, poisoned. I don't know what, but
2 men poisoned.
Poisoned.
Well, and he doesn't know what.
No, he
exactly.
doesn't.
So yeah, but I always like that moment because there's that moment where they're both like, all right, we tried to keep a lid on this, but these guys are really sick.
Yeah. So eventually the paramedics arrive and they indicate that like they don't have heartbeats, they don't have pulses, their body temperatures are at room temperature at 70 each.
And their tongues are a shade of orange that generally you only get from drinking a refreshing orange Julius.
Yes. So by this point, they're like, you guys are no longer alive, like, but you're still conscious. So like, this is really strange. Like, you're not dead.
Well,
like, we're not.
Yeah, that's what he said. Like, you mean not dead? He's like, obviously you're not dead because you're responding to us, but something is making you appear to be dead.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So by this point, the other group have decided that the medical facility place is not safe because of Tarman. They're running back into the cemetery, and now they're running into all the new friends, including Trash, who falls into a mud puddle and is submerged by the trioxin and the zombies at the same time.
Because the rain is carrying the chemical.
Yeah.
And I also want to mention a great thing about Freddie and Frank. Thank you.
It's good.
One of the big things about them that I love is they didn't go with the bitten trope.
No.
They are exposed, but we still get that kind of like, we know something's
slow
wrong.
build.
We know that they were exposed heavily to the chemical.
Oh, I mean, right in their
compared
faces.
to everybody else.
Yeah.
But there is also this understanding when you watch the movie a few times that probably everybody is eventually going to turn because they were all exposed to that rain.
Yeah. So the paramedics go back out to their ambulance, and that is when they are ambushed by zombies and eaten.
And how?
And then dispatch comes over and they're just like, hey, is everything okay over there? And dispatch, send more paramedics.
The zombie says, send more paramedics. And I love that too, because again, iconic moment.
Yeah.
But it also establishes, so these zombies have reasoning.
Yeah.
They have the ability to speak, at least some of them. I mean, we saw the Tar Man speak, but he was rudimentary. I mean, he just wants brains.
Yeah.
This guy, this dead zombie corpse guy, knows to pick up the radio, turn it on, and say, send more paramedics.
Yep.
And later on, when there's police, send more cops.
Police. Yeah, some more cops. So by this point, the group has made it into the mortuary, which alerts Ernie because he's just like, what the hell's going on? So he goes out there ready and armed to shoot, sees that it's the kids, lets them in, and that's when they're like, there's hundreds of them.
Helen is like, are you crazy? Are you on PCP?
Yeah.
Well, and first, and in defense of an indefensible man like Ernie,
which we'll get to.
Yeah. They're a bunch of hoodlums.
Yeah.
So it does look like they're causing trouble, but but they're screaming like, we're going to die.
We're going to die.
So he's like, he lets him in, but he has his gun out and he's like, are you crazy? Are you on PCP?
So by this point, they're barricading themselves in the mortuary because now everything is surrounding them in this whole thing. Scuzz ends up getting killed by this half-torsoed zombie that bites into his head, sprays blood everywhere, and then they're boarding up the windows. And by this point, they've also poured that corpse in, which Ernie takes a stab at and is like holding too.
Well, it's actually kind of brilliant because what Ernie does is he takes the stick and he sticks it right between her ribcage onto her spine.
Yeah.
Knowing that means no matter what she does, she can't move because he's got a point of perfect balance.
And if you haven't seen the movie, this corpse is it's like a skeleton with little skin left, and it is literally cut at the spine.
Well, when they pulled it in, I think it just broke in half.
Yeah. So that's when they decide that they can try and learn something from it. They tie the creature to the table.
It's Ernie's idea to interrogate it.
Yeah.
Because Ernie probably has a very interesting past.
He does. So that is when the corpse explains that reanimated corpses can feel themselves rotting, and the only thing that stops it is brains. Eating brains numbs the pain and lets them feel alive for just a little bit.
And while that is not expanded on in part 2, because part 2 is not really even the same universe.
Yeah.
In part 3, they actually go into this idea that they crave brains because they get electro magnet
Meat
response,
batteries.
basically. They like, well, that's a whole other thing about
No,
making
I
them
know.
meat batteries. But that it's the synapses.
Yeah.
That eating the synapses, it like makes their pain receptors reduce, and it
Yeah.
also powers them to an extent. And granted, 2 or 3 is not exactly canon either.
No.
There's a lot of differences there too. But man, the scene where they interrogate the zombie, another moment where it's like, holy crap, because getting to know what the zombie's motivation is crazy
Yes.
and great.
So by this point, we cut back to the cemetery and we see reanimated trash rise from the grave.
And we hear Make Love Till You Die again as she stands up. We don't see her face.
Nope.
We just see her sexy body.
Yep. And she stands up, wanders outside of the cemetery into the street where a homeless man is who completely sets eyes on her, but she runs right at him and feasts.
Yes. And we notice that her jaw
Yes.
is unhinged like a snake. It's
Unhinged.
gigantic.
So ridiculous.
8 times the size of a normal jaw.
So Frank and Freddy still showing signs of becoming zombies. By this point, Tina is at Freddy's side, and that's when they are locked in the chapel, accompanied by Tina, and she refuses to abandon Freddy. She's just like, no, I'm not. I'm going to stay with them, because by this point, they're like, this isn't safe. Like, they're showing signs.
Well, and they're even trying to be honest, like, we're not going to kill them, we're not going to hurt them, we just want to put them somewhere so we don't have to worry about them.
Yeah.
Well, we can figure out how to get the hell out of here. You know?
So she refuses to leave it. Freddy then is like, he's talking to her a little bit, and then slowly just starts to transform and has the most chilling line where he's just like, I feel like I can smell your brains.
And at this point, they're locked in the chapel.
Yes.
Freddy, Frank, and his girlfriend are locked in the chapel. So now he's chasing after her. She's screaming, trying to get away. Like we said, the movie starts to book it really fast.
Yeah.
And it's all about how things happen more than what, for the most part.
Yeah.
But yeah, he wants to eat her brains, and it's
chasing her through the chapel, and by this point too, we've had 2 cops show up, and they get completely taken over by the zombies.
And there's a great line where Ernie sees it happen.
Yeah.
He goes, "This place is a black hole.
Yeah.
Everyone that comes in gets swallowed up."
And I think also by this point, Ernie has done the barricade that's hurt his foot. His foot is broken.
Yeah, he's broken his foot, so
Yeah.
he can't run for it.
Yeah.
Because their new plan is to steal the cop car when they figure out that the keys aren't just in the ignition, the engine's still running.
Yep.
So they're going to go for it, but Ernie can't go.
Nope.
He's got the broken foot. And I love it when they decide they're going to go for the car, because Ernie says Bert, and he's like, yeah. And he's like, that favor you owe me? He's like, yeah, man. He's like, watch your ass out there.
Yeah. So Spider and Bert get into the car. They are mobbed by zombies at first and can't really get anywhere near. So they decide to break out into the street. They're going to go and try and call somebody. And as they get out into the street, another zombie horde is now completely out there.
And real quick, we would be remiss to not mention Spider is played by Miguel Nunez.
Yes.
Who also famous for Friday the 13th Part 5, Goddamn Enchiladas. Great actor.
Yeah.
He's been in a ton of movies.
So many things.
But this was really what kind of started his career. And
Yeah.
he tells a great story about how he was homeless when they cast him, and he was debating giving up on his dream. I love that stuff. But Miguel is so underrated in so many ways as an actor.
Well, and he has one of my favorite scenes with him and Ernie is he's freaking out at this point. Like, they've gotten back in. It didn't go
like,
well.
"Oh, they're all messed up. And it's like Ron and everything."
So Ernie hits him on one side and then comes back again and hits him on the other.
Slaps him the second
Yeah.
with his other hand when his face turns. And that was what I was getting at, is him and Ernie's dynamic is funny, but him and Bert,
Oh, so good.
he hates Bert.
Yeah.
For no apparent
No reason. He even calls him a stupid honky when
Stupid
they crash
honky
when they crash the
when
car.
They crash the car. Yeah. It's so good. Yeah, because they realize that they cannot drive through this giant group of corpses.
Yeah.
They also realized that they couldn't. Originally, their plan was to pull the car right up to the exit of the mortuary and get them in. No chance. The zombies are just all over.
So by this point, Ernie has blinded Freddy by throwing acid into his eyes. So Freddy has become even more heinous looking because his eyes have melted. He just has red where his sockets are.
Well, and another great moment, because Ernie's trying to figure out how to survive this. And at one point he says, "What about this? Sulfuric acid. It'll pretty much dissolve anything." And they're like, "But you only have one jar of it." And he's like, Yep. Like, we don't have enough to do anything. He's just trying.
He's trying to do something.
Come up with anything.
So all this chaos is going on. We then cut back to the crematorium where Frank has decided that he's going to end it himself. And he made the comment earlier that he can run the damn thing, pulls out the tray in the oven, takes his wedding ring off and kisses it, places it on the button, climbs inside, pulls the door shut, or pushes the button and the door goes shut, and he just eliminates himself.
He cremates himself.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he was not aware that that is what spread the trioxin.
Yep.
So it's extra sad because he's also like kind of dooming everybody extra. But it's also a really sweet moment because he sees what happens to Freddy and he doesn't want that to happen.
No, he doesn't want that to happen at all. And then even more so by this point, zombie forces have now completely surrounded the mortuary led by Trash, and that prompts Ernie and Tina to hide into an attic being chased by Freddy. They get up a ladder, knock the ladder down, and climb into the attic and shut the door. And by this point, Freddy is like, I know you're up there. I can smell your brains. And one of my favorite things that you pointed out to me several watches back, Ernie has his Luger with him.
Yes.
And he has Tina, and he's got his arm around her, protecting her, and she's holding on to him. And as he's just banging on this door, as he's just banging on this door, we just see Ernie take out the gun, and he is getting ready to shoot her and then shoot himself.
Yeah, which happens to be a methodology you're taught in a certain World War II military government organization.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
So Bert and Spider manage to get back inside the warehouse. They find Casey and Chuck there, and that is when they also incapacitate the basement zombie, Starman at this point.
Yeah, they knock his head off.
Off.
And then just go for it because
Yeah.
at least it's can't see.
So he wants to get down to the trioxone barrels. They want to see what they can do.
And there's a phone.
Yes, and there's a phone down there because the other phone was in the office and they weren't going in there.
No.
So that is when he makes a call out to the police, and he's like, hey, we're trapped inside here, because by this point they've had a helicopter come in. They're like, get to this part of the line if you want to surrender. Otherwise, like, you are in firing grounds. So he calls the cops, and he's like, well, what happened? He's like, oh, it's a lot. And then by this point, Trash and her army just descend on the police even more.
I do love that instead of Clu Gulager saying like the dead are rising or anything, which is a pet peeve, like when cops don't believe you because you tell them exactly what's on. He doesn't say, he says, they're stark raving mad. They'll attack you. They'll kill you and they'll eat you. It's like rabies, only faster. Like that's at least a cop would believe you if they could have heard him over the sound of the zombie horde taking over the cops.
Yeah. So
boy, howdy.
Cops are overrun. Bert then decides to call the number on the military barrels, and we see that they're connecting with everybody. There's a guy that he connects to, and he's taking down the notes. How long has the infection gone? When did this start? All this stuff.
And one thing we skipped over because there's so much to get to is that we open with one of the first things we see is this military guy whose entire job is to be reachable to find out what happened to these
barrels. Yeah.
And that's when we find out that there's a contingency plan. They were prepared for this to happen. And I love that Miguel Nunez's character goes, what is this plan?
Yeah.
Because he is the last of the super anti-authority punks.
Yep.
So he's like, what is this plan? So then we find out that the military guy calls and he says the eggs, we found the Easter eggs have been found. Unfortunately, sir, the eggs have hatched. And then he tells him what to do. So now we smash cut. It's so ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous.
We smash cut to a call coming in to a young man sitting in a nuclear launch site.
Yes, he is.
And I love his reaction too, because if you look at the background, the set he's in, he's reading a comic book. He has a cup of coffee. It's first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
And when the phone rings, he's very like, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
It's nice to hear. Good morning to you too, sir. Okay. Archimedes. He's like taking down the code. He's taking down nuclear launch code.
Yes, he is.
And one thing I want to mention is what would be going through. I know that this is a comedy-ish horror movie. I don't consider this a straight horror comedy, but it's a comedy horror movie. And he's literally sitting in a bunker being told, like, you're going to launch at these coordinates. I think it was like 175 miles from you, which means that he's literally getting told you're going to launch a nuclear warhead onto American soil.
Yep. So they go through the process, and that is when we see the nuke loaded, we see it shot off, and we even see our characters hear it shot off because it's...
Well, yeah, we literally get the cartoon.
And Bert's like, do you hear that? Boom.
Well, but the way they do it, too, he says, like, do you hear something? And then, like, Freddy busts through and it freeze frames, and then we freeze frame on all the zombies getting ready to go into the major
looking
town.
Up at the sky. I love that.
Yeah, because I guess they noticed the sound.
So everything freeze frames, and then we see the blast, and then we see the shot of Louisville, and then just the wave comes through.
Yeah, we see a mushroom cloud.
Yeah.
And then the shockwave just ripping apart the roofs of the buildings.
Killing everybody, killing Bert, killing all the survivors. And in the wake of the nuclear strike on Louisville, Colonel Glover is heard telling his commanding officer that everything went as planned and that the results could not be more positive. Only a small area was destroyed, he says, and casualties are limited. As he speaks, the toxic rain falls once more, and zombies are heard screaming.
And he says the only thing unusual is the rain, but that should work to our
Should
advantage.
work to our
because
advantage.
It puts out the fires.
Yep.
It washes everything away. And then he even says, and yes, I know the president is going to be in Louisville tomorrow.
Yeah.
One thing I always wondered about this movie, by the way, I mean, granted, like I said, we never get like a real sequel that like expands the canon of the first movie, but what would be the cover story the military would have for why they bombed Louisville? Like, would they claim that it was an accident? Were they going to claim that it was the enemy did it? Like, because
it's a big thing to cover.
It's a small nuclear bomb, but it was a nuclear bomb.
Nuclear bomb on a town.
Yeah.
Yeah. So by this point, they're screaming in the graves. We see a skeleton rise up and scream.
The same one we saw earlier.
Yep. And that is 1985's Return of the Living Dead as we kick into 45's party time and we get our home run of the greatest moments of Return of the Living Dead.
Just funny and bizarre moments played under the credits.
Yep.
Like a comedy movie.
Perfect ending.
It's great because it makes it feel like the party that it was.
Yeah.
It was a fun horror movie. It still had horror. It still had the gore that was meant to be serious.
Yeah.
But it has this attitude, very punk rock attitude. I mean, I remember what a big deal it was when the soundtrack came out through Enigma Records.
Oh, yeah.
Enigma, who had handled Dead Milkmen and Mojo Nixon, all these punk bands. And it was like, your soundtrack album's coming out through the punk label?
Texas Chainsaw 2, IRS.
Yeah, it came out through IRS. Same kind of thing. So, and I mean, and this soundtrack had the Cramps on it and stuff like that, which so did Texas
Chainsaw 2.
So it's
had Goo Goo Muck to be more precise.
Oh, when the sun goes down and the moon comes up.
All the Wednesday fans are so happy right now.
Oh, well, good for that.
So, do you know what the budget was on Return of the Living Dead?
I should. Was it like 7 or 8?
You're close. 4. It was $4 million.
Okay, it was lower than I thought.
So $4 million budget. It opens August 18th, 1985 to take in $4,403
on opening weekend.
Opening weekend.
That's really good.
Worldwide grossing $14 million.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Mean, by those standards, that's a hit.
Yeah. So filming started July 9th, 1984, completing on August 18th, 1984 in Los Angeles, California, Burbank, Silomar, and downtown area. And there is one shot of Louisville, which is at the very end of the movie, as we saw. Although most of the movie is set in Louisville, Kentucky, it was filmed in California. The only scene actually filmed in Louisville was shot at the front gate of Louisville's Eastern Cemetery. Oh, so I'm wrong. It's that one.
Okay. All right, cool. I didn't think any shots were from Louisville, to be honest.
So the Louisville police uniforms and patrol cars were all period correct. John Russo receives a story credit despite the only similarity is his original treatment being the title. His original screenplay was Dead Serious Horror Story, which was a direct sequel to The Night of the Living Dead.
And based on his novel of the same name.
Yeah, taking place 10 years later and dealing with a trio of sisters being menaced by looters in the countryside when the zombie plague mysteriously begins again.
And there was a whole thing where basically what they ended up deciding on was that Romero could do his Of the Dead movies.
Yeah.
And Russo's space was the Living Dead.
Yeah, of Living Dead.
So that's kind of where that division came from.
Yeah.
But it's wild because I've only ever heard that Russo's script was not very good.
I've heard the novel's good, but yeah, I've heard the script was not.
I would love to read the book sometime.
He sells Return of the Living Dead at his tables when he's at cons.
I mean, just get it on the internet.
Yeah,
So you buy it online.
Tobe Hooper had originally been brought on to direct the film, but due to the film's production stalling, he had to leave the project so that he could go direct Life Force for Canon Films.
Ironically, Dan O'Bannon wrote.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
The executive producers attempted to contact George A. Romero several times in order to offer him the choice of producing the movie, but he never answered. In fact, Romero had agreed with his former partner, Russo, that they would make separate sequels to their horror hit Night of the Living Dead, with Romero's films being referred to as the Dead movies and Russo's as Living Dead series.
And Romero was knee deep in Day of the Dead.
Yeah.
In the middle of all that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Day of the Dead had a ton of trouble.
Yeah.
Their budget got slashed a bunch to the point where he basically turned, I think it was like the first act of the originally planned Day of the Dead he turned into a full movie.
That makes it. I'm not surprised by that. Richard P. Rubenstein, producer of Dawn of the Dead 1978 at Laurel Entertainment, didn't want people to think this film was part of George Romero's Living Dead series. He even got an injunction to stop the makers of Return of the Living Dead from using Living Dead in the title. However, the MPAA arbitrators ruled in favor of producer John Russo since he had co-written Night of the Living Dead and based this film on his own novel, Return of the Living Dead. In fact, Romero had long before agreed with Russo that he would drop the word Living Dead from all his subsequent sequels, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Land of the Dead, etc.
Yeah. No, and it's been an interesting ride.
It has been.
The whole Russo versus Romero camp.
I need to go back to Land and Survival. Those were the two that I had the most trouble with. Land actually did age a bit better.
Land aged pretty well. Survival's pretty rough.
I always like Diary.
I like Diary.
I always like Diary. Director Dan O'Bannon was originally supposed to play Frank, and he wrote the part with himself in mind, but when James Karen came in to read for another part, O'Bannon was simply blown away and hired him on the spot.
Yeah, it's too... I mean, O'Bannon wasn't a bad actor, but James Karen's incredible actor.
Clu Gulager was cast his first day of shooting. O'Bannon was worried because his vision of Bert was so precise, but he loves what the actor created. Of course, he got a little hysterical and punched me out a few times, but that's fine. I will forgive almost anything for the quality on screen. Yes, there is, in fact, stories of Gulager chasing O'Bannon with a bat on set.
Clu had an overall good reputation, but he was known for being an old school wild man.
He had a temper.
Yeah.
He had a temper. According to Jules Shepard, Dan O'Bannon met her in the early 80s when he was a member of a very ultra-chic and private club where she worked as a stripper. They became good friends because they had a lot in common, and he bought her drugs. When he got the directing gig for the film, he wanted her to play trash, but she was fed up with being naked on stage and in small film roles at the time, so she suggested the audition for Party Girl Casey since she liked to party, and he agreed.
Well, she said some BS, though. She told him she wouldn't appear nude in movies.
Yeah.
And in reality had just done a nude role that he didn't know about.
Yeah.
So she just kind of BS'd
BS'd him.
But we got Linnea Quigley in the film.
Is she the one that's in Out for Justice as the body double to the one chick that we were watching the one time, or is that Michelle Bauer?
Michelle Bauer.
It's Bauer. Okay, I thought so. Thom Matthews got his ear pierced for the role of Freddy since the character's description specifically called for one. He later found out he could have just worn a fake earring the entire time.
Yeah.
Linnea Quigley originally danced to the song Nasty Girl by Vanity. If you are a fan of Beverly Hills Cop, that is the song that plays in the strip club in the film.
Okay.
During the filming of her famous cemetery striptease, Nasty Girl was later replaced by the song Tonight We'll Make Love Until We Die by Stacey Swain.
I mean, it was good. It was a good swap.
It was a good swap. Yeah. The shot of the barrel corpse, nicknamed Tarman, changing through the glass panel was done with wax over the face of the skull and heat turned up to melt it. The glass crack was unintentional and happened due to the heat.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I also like the touch that they composited fog over it because the fog is moving at a normal speed.
You pointed that out to me.
That was really cool.
Alan Trotman said in the DVD commentary that one of the main ingredients for the tar of his costume was methysol. Methysol is a thickening agent used in milkshakes and also one of the main ingredients for the Blob, 1988.
Oh, yeah. Food stuff is all about, special effects is all about food stuff.
Oh, yeah. O'Bannon was aiming for a pacing similar to screwball comedies of Howard Hawks, which was fast, stepping on each other's lines, and wanted it to sound chaotic. They rehearsed for a week to ensure the dialogue he wanted heard did not get lost in the shuffle.
No, and that's very clear by, even right at the beginning when he's Freddy's going, and Fred goes, "Why, kid, you're learning."
Yeah.
It's completely that vaudeville style.
The scene where Tina falls through a broken step was done without Beverly Randolph's knowledge it was going to be done. Director Dan O'Bannon had a false step put in while she was at lunch, then told her to do a test run up the stairs. She wound up banged up and bruised as a result, and also the reason why Tina didn't get up immediately and run in the scene. That is 100% true. They talked about in the documentary that O'Bannon had a problem sometimes with the way he handled working with his actors on things.
That's really dangerous.
Yeah.
That's really dangerous.
The lead pipe that Clu Gulager uses in the movie is actually made of rubber. He initially used a real pipe, but the crew snuck it away from him and replaced it with a rubber one, as O'Bannon was worried about Clu's frequent anger and sometimes violent outbursts, both on and off set.
He was also swinging that thing around a lot, just in character.
Some of the zombie extras were paid bonus to eat real calf brains in the film. Dan O'Bannon didn't want the actors to do anything he wasn't willing to do and ate some raw calf brains first in front of them to show that he wouldn't ask them to do anything he wasn't willing to do himself.
I wouldn't do that.
No. The character of Ernie, played by Don Caffa, is thought to be a Nazi due to him sharing his name, Ernest Kaltburner. There are also character details that provide an indication of this in his past. Ernie listens to the German Afrika Korps march song, Panzer Rollin' in Afrika, on his Walkman while he embalms bodies, carries a German Walther P-38, has a picture of Eva Braun in his morgue, refers to the rainstorm coming down like Ein Bergstensaldet, which means a drunk soldier in German.
Yeah.
Really knows his way around a crematorium and seems surprised and ashamed when he learns that the dead can feel pain. Dan O'Bannon in the DVD commentary mentions that Ernie was intended to be a escaped Nazi in hiding.
Yeah, and the Easter eggs you mentioned are all perfect for that. I mean, they really are. And Don Calfa lamented that the worst part of that role was having to bleach his hair.
Bleach his hair like 3 times and it never went back the same.
Yeah. Well, he claimed it never grew back.
Yeah. After the rabid weasels are brought into the resurrection funeral home and the tarp is removed, what is actually in the bags are motorized toy monkeys that have the symbols removed.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's a perfect solution.
Clu Gulager has expressed great pride at appearing in the film, even going as far to call it one of the 5 genuine works of art that I've been a part of.
Wow.
Yeah, he really did love this movie.
I think that's fair.
When shooting Trash's Linnea Quigley's gravestone dance, she initially was completely naked and showed pubic hair, as was the norm in the early 80s. However, producer Graham Henderson visited the shoot that day, and according to himself and others, threw a fit yelling at Dan O'Bannon that you can't show pubic hair on television. Dan sent Linnea away and had her completely shaved, which coincidentally Linnea herself found to be the most embarrassing part of the whole thing. They did another shoot to which Graham Henderson cried out, "Oh God, it's even worse. You could see everything." Ironically, the exact same thing would happen with Matilda May's new scenes in the next movie O'Bannon scripted, Life Force, in 1985.
Well, a lot of that was about foreign, especially.
Yeah.
Was that they wouldn't be able to release it foreign showing that.
At this point, they sent Linnea Quigley over to Bill Munns and William Stout, where they made a alginate crotch piece resembling the bottom of a G-string and glued it on. According to Linnea, this was a bit of a problem. Every single time she had to go to the bathroom, they had to remove it. Because of this, there are no shots of Linnea with a completely naked crotch area. Like a department store mannequin, Quigley joked once that she has never had more attention focused on her vagina than when they were shooting this scene. Fans still ask if there is any footage of the versions of the dance with pubic hair or uncovered shaved vagina, but so far, none has shown up.
Well, I'm gonna, if I were a betting man, I'd say it would show up by now. So I'm gonna say, stop emailing, you creep.
Return of the Living Dead invented the popularized notion of the public conscious zombies eating specifically brains as opposed to simply flesh, and that zombies grown brains as they walk. It's also the first film to ever show zombies being able to run as well as being able to speak and being in possession of more than base animal instincts. In a critical scene in the movie, a zombie who is killed, one of the characters is tied to a table and explains that the dead seek brains because eating brains makes the pain go away. Romero invented the specific trait as part of his Night of the Living Dead series, though he has emphasized that this was not his idea.
Yeah.
According to the recently released book, The Complete History, Return of the Living Dead, The Simpsons creator, Matt Groening, came up with the tagline, "They're hungry and they're not vegetarians," which appears in some trailers. Another tagline he came up with was, "First they want to meet you, then they want to eat you," which was rejected by the studio. A young George Clooney visited the set as he was then the roommate of Thom Matthews.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Linnea Quigley said in an interview she had no idea the movie would be a hit until about a year after it was released, and she was mobbed at a Fangoria convention in L.A.
It was a different type. She had been doing a lot of the kind of LA low budget cult movies.
Yeah.
So she just kind of was used to the like little cult following she got from VHS rentals and stuff. And then for Return to become a mainstream hit was a massive boon to her career.
Big time. There are 2 versions of the song Party Time by the band 45 Grave. The band recorded the zombie version of their song for the movie's soundtrack, which mentions the events of the film, but not featured in the movie itself. In the cemetery scene following Trash's dance, the band's original version of the song, which is about a 5-year-old girl beaten, raped, and murdered by her own family, can be heard clearly playing instead.
Dina Cancer is a hell of a writer.
Yeah.
And a hell of a singer.
That song is rough.
Damn, dude.
The nuclear cannon at the end of the film was actually a World War II German howitzer.
Oh.
The frost on the walls of the freezer room is actually Christmas tree flocking. O'Bannon wishes they had the budget and could have afforded to actually turn the temperature down in there and see the actor's breath.
Too bad they hadn't invented e-cigarettes yet.
Bit of a sadist. Mark Venturi, Miguel Nuez, and Thom Matthews went to have roles in the Friday the 13th film series. Venturi is Vic Faden and Nuez in Demon in Friday the 13th, A New Beginning, and Matthews is Tommy Jarvis in Part 6, Jason Lives. Dan O'Bannon said on the DVD commentary that he decided the film's Tina's lonely walk from the cemetery to the warehouse with long shots and top-down angles because she felt the most he felt that most horror films film the characters from close up. O'Bannon felt that this was tired and cliched. However, once he had seen the final product, he regretted filming it the way he did, stating that afterwards he realized that the close-ups and tight shots help you follow the character and connect with their feelings.
Yeah, there's not a lot of close-ups. There's not a lot of that stuff.
No.
I don't think it hurts the movie really much, but it is an odd thing to realize, to watch it and go, hey, there's almost no coverage.
James Cameron came up with the idea for the death scene of his character. Originally, Frank was supposed to be completely transformed into a zombie and join the zombie mob, but Cameron did not wish to film any scenes in the cold rain of Los Angeles, so he instead suggested that Frank incinerate himself before the transformation could be completed, and O'Bannon agreed to the suggestion.
Hey, I should recommend that anytime I don't like a role I get. I'll be like, can I just get incinerated at the end?
And lastly, very early on after Trioxin is unleashed, the only zombies around are the cadaver in the medical warehouse's freezer and Tarman in the basement. Freddy says that they should call the emergency number on the barrels, only for Bert and Frank to shoot him down because they don't want to bring the army and government police scrutiny that would ruin the warehouse's business onto them. They were right about the army, all right, but that is because their solution for dealing with Trioxin zombies is killing everything in the general area in hopes for minimal civilian collateral damage. Even more ironic is the fact that had they called the number before trying to cook the yellow cadaver, the army would have probably been able to contain it to 2 zombies, yellow cadaver and Tarman, and the 2 infected humans, Frank and Freddy. However, due to the fact that they didn't call the number sooner, the army nuked the area because of the fact that there were more than 20 zombies, with the numbers increasing.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty much the whole folly of the film.
Yep. So what are your final thoughts on 1985's Return of the Living Dead?
Oh, for fuck's sake. Yeah. I mean, it's a classic
yeah.
of all classics. If you love horror movies, you're going to want to own it. You absolutely should own it. It should be in your collection,
yeah.
whether digitally or physical media. There's plenty of options. It's a quintessential zombie movie.
Oh, yeah.
And it's funny because it started out as being kind of not a knockoff, but a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of. And it ended up being its own thing so much. And I think that is really a testament to Dan O'Bannon's creativity on this movie.
I mean, I remember when that Blu-ray was announced and they had said like they had gotten as much music as they possibly could, because at that point I think it was like they were down to like 4 or 5 songs missing, I want to say.
So the big problem with the soundtrack on Return of the Living Dead was the contract.
Yeah.
For the music said for theatrical and VHS. It might have even had Laserdisc in there, I'm not sure.
Probably.
But because of that specific wording, the music had to be relicensed for later releases, and MGM and whoever was not willing to spend a lot of money on that. It's a common problem. It's why now when you sign contracts, they will say all the home media that exists, it'll like list it, and then it'll say, and any home media to be invented. So that's why you have a lot of movies with that problem. TV shows as well, but that's more because they would get the license just for broadcast.
For broadcast, yeah. But I remember this Blu-ray was making a splash with the news when it came out. I mean, it was already a popular film, but I mean, this is a buy it. There is no way around it. This is the quintessential zombie movie that really sped things up for how scary the zombies could get.
Well, and it's only become more beloved as 80s nostalgia has become extremely beloved.
Absolutely.
So
thrills, chills, chemical spills.
Oh man, he had to put that in there one more time. All right.
So we always like to end the show with a couple recommendations. My first one for this week should be no surprise. Return of the Living Dead Part 2 from 1988, currently rentable on Prime. Curious kids unearth the barrels that previously helped revive the dead, which proves the second time's an undead charm.
Oh, I can't believe you chose the sequel.
I had to.
Fair enough.
I
like it. It's a lot of fun.
But then going back into more fun and insane zombie movies, I've got to go with 1985's Demons, currently available on Tubi, Screenbox, Plex, Pluto, and AMC Plus. A group of random people are invited to a screening of a mysterious movie only to find themselves trapped in the theater with ravenous demons.
That's a hell of a film.
So good.
A lot of fun.
It just gets better and better.
So my recommendation, I racked my brain a bit. I wasn't thinking zombies, although kind of got zombies.
Yeah.
But I was trying to think of what's a film as dark in the literal plot as Return that you could, but also fun at the same time.
Yeah.
So I went 1984's Night of the Comet.
Good call.
Which is a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah.
If you have never seen Night of the Comet, what's wrong with you? It's let's see what the IMDb says. A comet wipes out most of life on Earth, leaving 2 valley girls fighting against cannibal zombies and a sinister group of scientists.
It's a wild movie.
It is so much fun. It's streaming right now on MGM Plus, and you can also and Tubi and Pluto, so you can watch it for free.
First time I saw that movie, I was a bit underwhelmed, and then it was when I think did Joe Bob show it.
You saw it that recently?
Well, I mean,
do you mean back in the
rewatched day? Like that was I got the first time I saw it was I got the Shout Factory Blu-ray when it had come out when I was in college, so that would have been like 2013ish. And it wasn't a bad movie; it just underwhelmed me. And then I think it was Joe Bob hosting it. I was just like, oh, this movie kicks ass.
Man, see, it was a TV mainstay when I was growing up.
I could see that,
and then it disappeared.
Oh yeah,
it wasn't on DVD for forever.
Yeah.
it was one of those movies that people would trade around. Like Monster Squad ended up becoming that way for a long time too.
Yeah.
So when Night of the Comet finally hit DVD, people were rejoicing like crazy because they were like, we can finally watch this ridiculous, awesome, apocalyptic, quasi-zombie horror film. And it's so much fun.
One of my favorite lines is, I'm not crazy, I just don't give a fuck.
I'm not crazy, I just don't give a fuck.
My
favorite is when they're shooting the Mac 10s and the one sister turns to the other and says, Daddy would have got us Uzis.
So good. So do we have any emails this week?
We do.
Oh.
But before we read the emails, do we want to check in with
yes,
Mr.
yes.
Ebert?
Just by himself, though, unfortunately, this time.
Sadly.
A young Ebert, because this is 85 when the movie comes out.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Night of the Living Dead begins when a teenager gets a job in one of those supply companies that sells cadavers and skeletons. And
I like to
dead
imagine
dogs
he
and
bought
pickled
that
worms
poster
and
just
stuff
after
like
seeing the
that
movie. They didn't
to
give it to him. He was
biology
just like, oh, I like this movie.
classes
Oh, I'll
for
take
their
one.
experiments.
Yeah.
And
I
the
like that
first
you
day on the
stole
job,
one.
the kid sitting
He's
there
like, it's
in the
Chicago.
company
You guys got
says,
drug dealers to fight.
Remember that movie, Night of the Living Dead, about all the ghouls and zombies that were walking around? Well, that
Never heard of
movie
it.
was actually based on fact, except the government suppressed it. And to prove it, I've got some of those zombies down in the basement right now in airtight canisters.
You say that thing was alive?
So they say.
James Cameron's so good in this movie.
Hell no, these things were made by the U.S. Army Corps.
Oh, they give away that gag on TV, huh?
Yeah.
Nice.
Did they go into the music?
Well, inevitably, the ghouls escape and they turn out to have a
Oh, this
virus
is
that
from a
infects
package they
everybody
give you
around,
for
including
TV.
this guy,
I could see
who
that.
Of
exhibits
clips.
some very disturbing symptoms.
Who's there?
It's wild to look at what Ebert was doing in the 80s and how YouTubers do it now.
Yeah.
But, more involved.
Yeah.
A lot like all the other Living Dead movies, this one is about how the ghouls march around eating everything they can get their hands on and terrifying those few people who aren't ghouls themselves.
Got him.
There's a pretty graphic of them show on TV.
Well, it's kind of cartoonish, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, there's no, blood.
Yeah.
It's kind of a
That's
close
not like
call
Scuzz'
whether or
death.
not Return of the Living Dead is a ripoff or not, because this movie was not made by the same people who made Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead, the Living Dead trilogy. This movie is inspired by those movies. It's made by different people, but yet at the same time, I liked it better than the recent Day of the Dead because the special effects are better, the humor is better, the acting is better. So I give it 3 stars, and I'm Roger Ebert.
I think that's 3 out of 4, if I'm not mistaken.
The humor is better. You mean than the humorless Day of the Dead, which I love, by the way. I love Day of the Dead.
It's
the darkest, bleakest possible film.
It's so fucking sad.
I love that about it.
It's so good. I mean, it's great.
I'm glad that that's a movie that's aged really well. A lot of people didn't consider it worthy of being their favorite Dead movie, and now it's not uncommon to hear people
it was
praise
the last of the original run that I saw, and it wasn't just not by seeing it. It was just it was not high on the list because Dawn of the Dead was so good.
Yeah, well, Dawn is probably my favorite movie of all time.
Yeah,
and Day is a lot of fun. I remember renting it on tape until a DVD finally came out. I was so excited to see it in widescreen. So
such a good movie.
Oh yeah. So but yeah, that's what Ebert thought. Shockingly enough, he liked it. I didn't think he liked anything ever. But if Siskel were there, I'm sure he would have pissed us off.
I'm sure.
So we got a very nice email.
Awesome.
And I wanted to read this, but it's very emotional.
Okay.
And yeah. So
this is that show, apparently.
Email reads, and by the way, if you want to email us, you can send us an email at doyouevenmoviepod@gmail.com. It's in the show notes or the description. We'd love to hear from you. It says, hey, Henrique and Dave, I know you don't know me, but I just want to let you both know how much I love and appreciate this podcast. I am going through some shit, all caps, right now. I'll spare you the sob story, but it's been a damn bumpy ride. And your podcast is a major comfort to me. There's a ton more I could say, but I don't want to ramble too much. Just know I appreciate you both deeply. Please don't ever stop making podcasts together. Love, Rosa.
That's awesome. Wow.
Rosa, we're honored to have you hang out with us and talk about silly, stupid movies and occasionally administer what may be legally considered therapy. On David.
Yeah.
So, no, sincerely, we're so happy to have you with us listening. It means a lot, and it definitely makes a tired day where we have to tack on doing a podcast a lot easier.
No, it does. And Rosa, I will tell you straight up that I fell into podcasts really heavily during quarantine because I had exhausted my music library at that point because I was just home and listening to it nonstop. And it really can make the difference, just a couple strangers' voices that become friends because of how much you spend time with them.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
no, I mean, I'm very grateful that we can be that for you right now. And I hope things get better. And please feel free to write in again. We'd love to hear from you again.
Absolutely. And thank you.
Yes.
So, and we want to remind everybody, doyouevenmoviepod@gmail.com. We love to hear your opinions on movies, your thoughts on the show, your thoughts on movies we've already watched, movies we should watch. We just like to hear from you. You can also comment if you're watching us on YouTube.
Yeah.
Leave a review if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It really helps a lot. And you can also comment on Spotify. I read and respond to every comment we get on Spotify. doyouevenmovie.com is where you find everything about us and our show out. So I guess that is about all there is to say about that on our longest episode ever.
I would imagine.
Because Dave finally opened his little heart.
So, speaking of, more showers of emotions, would you like to know what we're talking about next week?
Let me know.
April Showers continues as we go into week 3 with one that will be a first-time watch for Henrique.
It's true.
And that is going to be 2002's Road to Perdition, starring Tom Hanks. This is a great late gangster effort that has a role of Tom Hanks that you do not expect him to play normally, because he's a gun in this.
Oh, okay.
He's an assassin, so it's really, really good.
I mean, I've heard it's a great film.
Yeah.
So.
Currently available on Paramount Plus. You can also get a pretty cheap Blu-ray, I think, right now, too. So if you haven't seen it, get on it. And that is what we are going to be talking about next week. And I cannot wait to show you that movie.
Well, and whatever insecurity you're harboring.
I mean, we'll
get to it.
We're recording this before we technically go to Wasteland, so we'll see what the weekend brings.
Oh, gosh. Are you expecting, horrible things to happen?
Lots.
Oh, man. I did invite a bunch of people I assume might be bullies.
Oh, we just go through my yearbooks and just...
Yeah, I was just circling them based on their sourpuss. I look at him, I was like, that dude would beat up David. So, but
that dude would beat up David.
With all that being said, my friends, thank you all so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. So all that's left to say is, we will see you next. Want to party?
Do you want to party?
It's party time. Make love till we die.
Thrills, chills, chemical spills.
Had to work it in 3 times. You're never going to hear the end of that cockiness.
Nope.
Next time, guys.
See ya.